Drama, hatred, mystery, intrigue, tackles, diving, physical soccer. That's what's happening in Atlanta right now. It's 0-0, and I don't in the World Cup today, this afternoon. But hello, how are you? Drive time, Wednesday afternoon, 15 minutes past the hour of 2 o'clock on another hot Utah July day outside. And as it is every day, good to have you along for the ride. Burnley FC in town tonight from the Champions League as they were relegated from the Premiership last year to take on RSL in a friendly. And going to head out to that game and hopefully interview J.J. Watt for the program tomorrow. J.J. is on the board, the sporting board of Burnley FC, as that club is trying to get back into the Premiership, the EPL as it were, and they're going to take on RSL in a friendly tonight. So good to have Real Salt Lake back. They're going to be back officially for MLS play coming up on the 22nd against LAFC. Steve Starks was my guest on the Reality Check with Spence Checketts podcast platform that was released just this morning. If you haven't listened to that and you are a soccer fan or a baseball fan, hoping to have Major League Baseball here in our market. Of course, Steve is the CEO of the LHM company, not just the sports side of things. He's running the whole show. So, goal England. Goal England, unless they call that offside. 55th minute, England tallies first. 1-0, number 18. I don't know who he is. A very pasty-looking young man. Very, very English, British-looking young man. And that goal is going to stand. That goal is definitely going to stand. 1-0, England, 55th minute. God save the Queen. Shout out to the Queen. I know Porter is anti-shouting out the Queen. The Beckhams are going crazy. Posh Spice loves it. Meat pies for everybody. I don't know. I love London, but I don't know that there's a worse country for, like, cuisine. I mean, as far as native cuisine, bangers and mash and such. Great cross into the box. A great right-footed finish into the side netting. Keeper never had a chance. England goes on top. Are they going to bring it home? Have not been to a World Cup final, I believe, since 1960. So there you go. We'll see if Lionel Messi and Argentina can answer. Got some NFL offseason news to get to on the show today as we are high speed ahead to camp. George Pickens is going to play on a $27.3 million franchise tag as the deadline has passed. That's the franchise tender extended by the Dallas Cowboys. Of course, one eye on the college football landscape. Big 12 Media Day last week brought us a lot of content to get to with Utah, with BYU, with this weird, strange conference that is faking unity while everybody's mad at Texas Tech. And we'll see how this kind of plays out as we kind of move ahead. So we'll get to some of these storylines on the program today. NBA Summer League, for all intents and purposes, is kind of over. I think there are a lot of interesting storylines for the Utah Jazz as far as what we were able to see in a truncated space with Darren Peterson, with Ace Bailey, with Cody Williams, both the good and the bad. It's a big year for Cody. We'll talk a little Jazz basketball on the show today. The dance continues to lure LeBron James to play for one of these NBA teams, Stephen Wardell Curry. Or is it Waldell Stephen Curry? Anyway, he was on Good Morning America this morning making his plea for LeBron to play in the Bay Area for the Golden State Warriors. The latest report is Tyrese Maxey, Jaylen Brown, and Joel Embiid got together to try to get LeBron to Philly. Tyrese Maxey and LeBron James share an agent. It's kind of the last domino to fall. Adam Silver actually spoke on the Kawhi Leonard investigation and said nothing. He said it's got to end before the start of the season. Oh, really? Yeah, because there's like a trade that everyone's waiting to go down, and everyone's waiting for it because you can't figure this out, or you've refused to actually look into it deep enough to make this stuff go down. The Western Conference is going to be a bear next year. Over-under Jazz wins set by DraftKings, 34.5. That feels low. I'm not as bullish on the Jazz as media members who are paid by the Jazz, but 34.5, 34.5 feels really, really low to me for Jazz over-under win totals. We also have the Vegas over-under. And by the way, Summer League is still going on. I mean, but for the most part, the best players are shut down. We got some Summer League games going on right now. The Jazz will play the Spurs tonight at 7:30. Not sure that we'll see Ace Bailey. I'll be honest, I don't want to see Darren Peterson. I've seen enough. Keep him on ice. We don't need to see any more. So we cannot risk this young man's future by some ridiculous injury in a Summer League game that's featuring 12, 14 players that will never even sniff the NBA and are just trying to find a job. But Summer League in Vegas continues to go to kind of roll along. All right, good guest list. Amy Donaldson, our good friend from KSL, will join us live in studio. I always enjoy our chats with Amy. Former U.S. men's national team player, former RSL standout, and current RSL assistant general manager Tony Beltran will stop by in the 3 o'clock hour. Excited to bring on Brett Ciancia today. Brett writes a college football preview called Pick Six that's as good as it gets, and he is a good friend of the show. And he will join us today to talk some Big 12, to talk some BYU, to talk some Utah. And then what should we really take away from Summer League, and what's a reasonable expectation for the Utah Jazz? What are we doing? What's going on? Richard Smith will join us coming up at about 4:30 today, and then we'll get to the final hour of the show, and we will say goodnight at 6. Amy Donaldson, Tony Beltran, Brett Ciancia, Richard Smith, me, Spence Checketts, and God Save the Queen, Porter Larson. Why are you anti-Queen?
Queen's dead.
But even when she was alive, you appeared to not be a huge fan.
No comment.
You can make a comment. It's a radio show. We literally comment on everything.
It's okay. I'm just cheering against England. I always will be.
You have some deep-seated hatred for England.
250 years of not listening to England or cheering for them.
This is about the Meghan Markle stuff, isn't it? I knew it.
I mean, they're annoying for sure.
Oh, my gosh.
Not on board there, but no, Queen hater, King hater, England hater.
What did England do to you?
They tried to kill my ancestors.
Who are your ancestors? Who do I not know? I mean, I know one of your ancestors is Billy the Kid or whatever. What's his name? The old.
Not quite.
Which one? Which one? The cowboy.
A few of them, but
no, but like the famous outlaw.
Butch
Cassidy.
Rockwell.
Okay.
We're all related.
Which of your ancestors did the Brits try to kill? Or are you just talking about the Revolutionary War?
Yeah.
You're still stuck with we've all moved on. We kind of have a peaceful existence with them now.
Yeah, we do, but that doesn't mean you have to,
You're not cheering for England because of the Revolutionary War. We won that.
We did. And in doing so, gave us the right to not cheer for England in anything.
Well, you have the right to.
Or just not be forced to.
Definitely not be forced to. It seems a little petty to focus in on a war that happened 250 years ago that we actually won.
Yeah, we did.
Or did we?
We did.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Well, I don't know.
You better get reading some books.
No, I'm reading the books. I'm just saying, with election denials and such, I mean, what is history actually teaching us what it needs to be teaching us?
Not always.
Because I will tell you what.
But we did kick their ass.
I will tell you what. You go over there, and they're kind of like, oh, that's cute. We didn't really want you guys to stick around, so congrats on your freedom, but we're good too. There's two different stories here.
That's just a misunderstanding. They wanted us bad.
Okay. Anyway, you're cheering for Argentina today.
Oh yeah.
They're so unlikable. Outside of Messi, this is an unlikable group of soccer players.
I don't, especially not, beyond Leo, follow Argentinian soccer enough.
Mm.
Big Pablo Mastroeni fan here.
Sure.
But yeah, I'll cheer for at least a South American squad over English team.
Okay. Anti-Brit Porter Larson producing the show today.
Sorry, Mr. Checketts.
We're all okay, man. We're all good. All the Checketts came from England. I know that's not a shock.
Right.
If you're watching on YouTube, I kind of look like I'm like Jordan Pickford could be my cousin.
Yeah.
He looks just like a Checketts. But we will move on. Big match tonight. Friendly match tonight, but it'll be fun to have Burnley FC in town. Amy Donaldson, live in studio. But before we get to Amy, Wednesday afternoon style, it's time now for your opening tip, brought to you by friends at Game Day Men's Health. I also want to let you know, stay tuned a little bit later, if you want to win some Zach Bryan tickets to hang out with Porter in a suite and talk about why England is the worst. Stay tuned at about 4 o'clock today, because Zach Bryan is taking over Rice-Eccles Stadium on August the 7th. The ESPN 700 wants to send you and your concert buddy to the show. Tune into this show around 4 o'clock every day for your chance to score a pair of tickets. More details can be found at ESPN700sports.com. All right, we've got the World Cup semifinals going on right now. England tallied about 5-6 minutes ago, and they now lead 1-0 to the 64th minute we go. We will have the World Cup final coming up on Sunday featuring Spain and the winner of this match. Of course, tonight we have Burnley FC, and we have RSL with a little bit of a friendly. MLS has announced an endeavor. We've got next. It's very WNBA-ish, if you remember that, WNBA for years. It's like, we've got next. It's like, oh, do you really? Okay. And we'll see what this World Cup cycle means for soccer in this country. And it feels like this is the conversation we have every single World Cup cycle. And, you know, as I've talked about before, I did not grow up a soccer fan. In fact, I was anti-soccer. I couldn't stand it. I did play it as a kid, but I was on, like, the orange team and got orange slices at halftime and juice boxes and such. And then, like most of us that were playing sports, as soon as we were old enough to play football, I mean, soccer back then was in the fall, you changed over and played American football. So I did not grow up a soccer fan. I was begrudgingly, almost quasi-forced to get to know the game. And now I've got about, 22 years of either working in soccer, covering soccer, and watching World Cups. And it took me a while, admittedly, but I get it now, and certainly on board with not just the future of the sport domestically, but what the sport has kind of manifested into with not just people in America, but, of course, being the biggest global sport by far. But I always push back on this whole, like, at some point, will we ever consume it the way we do American football or basketball? Right now, I mean, I've talked about the Gallup poll that was taken last year. I mean, soccer, the number one sport worldwide by far. And when you kind of move into a vacuum here in America, American football, the number one sport, it always will be. There was a time where basketball was nipping on its heels. That was probably 30 years ago in the 90s. Basketball is still number two. And then the most recent Gallup poll has soccer as the number 3 most popular sport in America, ahead of baseball and ahead of hockey. Look, a lot of this is regional. Baseball still very much moves the needle, depending on which region you're in. And we've all been introduced to NHL hockey in this market with a really exciting 2-year project that has already led to a playoff team. Bill Armstrong and his team have made a number of different moves in this offseason to even expedite the growth. So just because it's the national footprint doesn't mean that's what the deal is here. And the numbers are a little bit harder to ascertain, because one of the things you always hear soccer people talk about in Utah is that we have more kids playing soccer than any other state in America. What's failed to mention is we have more families that have like 11 kids than any other state in America. We have more family that has multiple children and not 3 or 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, sometimes more. And therefore, you're simply going to have more kids, and therefore you're simply going to have more kids playing other sports. And until you're, 10, 11, 12, you're not old enough or big enough to play American football, so you often play soccer, which is an excellent sport to play when you're younger because it does teach you footwork. You have to be in shape. Certainly a lot of benefits to being able to play other sports if you start playing soccer. Akeem Olajuwon famously played soccer as a kid in Nigeria. Thought to have the best footwork in the history of the NBA for a big. The dream shake for you old NBA fans. But when it comes to what a World Cup cycle could mean for soccer, I don't think it matters anymore. I think we're kind of to the place where soccer has its spot in our country. MLS isn't going anywhere. They've got to figure out their TV deal. I've been saying that for years. I think the Apple TV deal, I understand the idea behind it. I think it's been a disaster. Even though the games are pretty well produced and there's some good talent on the broadcast, it has taken away the ability to tell stories regionally. And for a market like ours, that's important. But 30 years now for MLS, it's not going anywhere. And I think soccer people are fine with the piece of real estate they've carved out. I don't know what all of you who are listening to this show, who maybe are anti-soccer, have ascertained from this World Cup. Fox has done an excellent job of kind of magnifying some vignettes and some storylines, not just for our national team, but to expose the game here in the United States to the way it's played globally. And look, I'm just speaking for myself here. I feel like when you see it played the way it's been played on the world's largest stage, Jordan Pickford just made an insane save. Argentina, my cousin Jordan Pickford, see, look at him, Porter. Tell me that dude doesn't look like he could be related to me.
Oh, I'm sure you are.
Somewhere along the lines. That I cannot believe he saved that. Argentina nearly just evened up the score of one, and Jordan Pickford somehow dug that out of the grass. But anyway, I think soccer people, at least the ones I talk to, and soccer people at times are the problem. Like the gatekeeping that takes place in soccer is a little bit exhausting. So again, I talked about this yesterday. Sometimes the frustration with the World Cup is once every 4 years, the loudest voices in media decide to cover this game, and they sound like idiots. But on the other side of it, soccer fans that complain about, like, oh, we can't get our respect in this country, they're gatekeepers to the point where you are the worst, and that's why nobody wants to talk about it. Like soccer fans for years complain, you don't get coverage, then we cover your game. It's like, we don't like your questions. Okay, well, you're impossible, okay? But I do think soccer people have landed in a space where regardless of what you think about the sport, there are enough people in this country that watch it, consume it, play it, and enjoy it, that the business of soccer will continue to grow. All right, Amy Donaldson is going to join us live in studio. Tony Beltran. We have Brett Ciancia, Pick Six Previews, college football, Richard Smith, NBA. Busy Wednesday show, and it's good to have you with us right here on ESPN 700. We have moved to the 77th minute, but let me remind you, Argentina has scored 9 goals this World Cup tournament after the 75th minute. And God save the Queen. England leads 1-0. You get nervous in there?
No.
Oh!
I think Leo's going to get an equalizer here in a bit. I think we're going to go to PKs, and then he's going to send England home.
They're peppering my long-lost cousin, Jordan Pickford. Argentina's putting on the pressure. England, how shall we say, what do they call buses in England? The double-decker red buses. Do they just call them buses? I feel like there's a different word for
I don't
it.
know. Trolleys or something?
No,
something
I don't think
dumb.
It's trolley. It's probably something dumb. Parking the double-decker bus is what they're doing now. Argentina's peppering England. England holds that 1-0 lead in the second World Cup semifinal as Spain was able to advance yesterday, beating the favorite to win the World Cup. That was France, of course. Really good game. Some interesting financials being released on the BYU side of things. Sports Business Journal, and everyone's trying to figure out the revenue game in college sports. Mark Harlan, who joined the podcast last week, talked about generating revenue 5 or 6 different times with Matt Webb, the new CEO of Crimson Brand Partners. But I'll just kind of read a little bit here what it says. BYU's athletic department was valued at $500 million and its football program $366 million as of late 2025. And BYU brought in more than $153 million in revenue in just their second year in the Big 12. And that's, by the way, that's partial conference rev share. So if Sports Business Journal has the financials, this indicates BYU is one of the most valuable athletic departments in the country and one of the fastest growing. No data, at least on this article, as it pertains to the University of Utah. But everyone's trying to figure out the revenue game. That's the deal at this point. Live in studio, Amy Donaldson, KSL. What is that shirt that you?
This is John Randall.
John Randall.
Great defensive lineman, John Randall.
From the Vikings.
From the Vikings.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. There can be only one Highlander.
That's an aggressive shirt.
He's my favorite.
Okay.
I'm an aggressive person.
I can't argue with that.
I'm listening to you on the way in and thinking, you're talking about every 4 years, the whole We Got Next and the soccer. And, and I'm like, and you're saying there's these gatekeepers and then the media starts talking about it and they sound so dumb. And I was like, welcome to my world.
Yeah.
This is how I feel when people who've been putting down women's basketball and women's sports in general start talking about the WNBA, what they need to do to attract more fans.
Because suddenly Caitlin Clark is a topic and everybody feels like they have to chime in.
And suddenly they know everything about the league that they've never watched.
Right.
And really, I find this a lot. You find a lot of people with a lot, I was laughing at Porter not being willing to give his opinion on, which, by the way, I have a podcast to recommend that will reframe your feelings about the Revolutionary War.
My feelings or Porter's feelings?
Everyone.
Oh, okay.
I'm assuming we all kind of learned the same stories about the Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
It's a podcast by my favorite Native American journalist, and I did not know that in the Declaration of Independence, it's one of the grievances that the colonists had with England was that they had signed a treaty with Native American tribes, and the settlers were not allowed to live west of the Appalachian Mountains.
Oh.
So I knew they didn't want to settle past there for treaty reasons.
Sure.
But I didn't know it was because I didn't. They like wrote, you made this treaty with the savages, and so we take issue with that.
Okay. Interesting.
So that was like so if you want to be fair, England was on the right side of that one.
Okay.
So
all right.
What I'm saying? It's super fascinating. It's sort of how Native Americans were written out of the Revolutionary story. The story of America's birth.
Take that, because if I know anything about you, I know you're pro Native American. All right, so take that forward. Put that in your peace pipe and smoke it.
It's never as easy and simple. And while when the English signed the treaties that they did, that gave them like everything in the world. They were the largest empire ever.
Right.
But they really cared about the slave trade they had down in the Caribbean.
Yes, as a son of Mormon pioneers and of course the American Revolution. Yeah, some complicated, complex thoughts there.
Listen, my people are Irish. We have no love lost for the crown. Okay, but I will say this: Jude Bellingham, I will root for him every day of the week over even I like Lionel Messi, but anybody on Argentina's team. And I'm no longer a Harry Kane fan because I found out he golfs with Trump. But
there you go. Go ahead, Porter.
You know.
Finish your thought.
No. I was just saying, very complex, very complicated.
Yeah.
We could go into the revolution in probably like 100 different ways on that, but I think that might be a different podcast.
Yeah, all I know is, to your point, I think we probably all learned the same type of thing, whether you took classes in high school or at an American university. And the first time I talked to anybody from England about the deal, they were kind of just like, "Oh, really? Like you guys, congrats, patting on your head. Like we didn't really fight to keep you." Yeah. That's kind of their mentality.
Well, I mean, I would probably take issue with that characterization, but I do know that within a year or two of the revolution, all of our founding fathers were they were signing guest books in England. But there was a statue of George Washington that they put in one of the famous squares in London that they delivered dirt from Virginia because he didn't want it put on English soil.
Huh.
So we were petty. There were petty among us. But I do think it probably depends if your family is mostly English.
Yeah.
I think if you have Scottish, Irish heritage like me, we were a little bit more like,
Got a little Scottish in the Checketts family, but the majority is English. My mom's got a little Scandinavia situation with the Leishman name. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the majority of us, it's English, little Scottish. And look, as I was telling Porter, the English keeper looks like he could be my cousin. I mean, it's not that big of a surprise.
England is a really fun team, and I hope Spain wins, but wins it all.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I like to spread the love.
And also, they're fun to watch.
Yeah.
I mean, and they're so locked in right now. They've allowed 1 goal, and prior to the game against France, they allowed like 5 shots on target all tournament long.
Well, and I think the only team to play them even was our friends Cape Verde.
Cape Verde. What a cool story that was.
Yeah, so fun. I mean, that's my favorites out of the tournament. So I don't really. I mean,
who was your favorite?
It was Norway. I mean,
okay.
Erling Haaland.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just on board with him. And is the cowboy thing.
Yeah.
When he was trying to be a cowboy.
Yeah. Yeah, he was, I mean, soccer fans have known who he is for a long time, but I think he was kind of maybe the breakout star for people that hadn't watched this tournament because, as you heard me talking about, and look, my background is not in this sport, but I do have 5 World Cup cycles. Giannis in the house, by the way, and now 22 years kind of either working in or covering the sport. So now, when the World Cup rolls around and it's Colin Cowherd and it's Stephen A. Smith and it's these guys that couldn't name 2 players on the field, not named Lionel Messi right now. Yeah. Suddenly it's like, we should be better at this. We're Americans. Belgium is awesome. It's no surprise. I mean, it's surprising they smoked us, but it's the uneducated opinion rolling around once every 4 years that you're like, dude, you don't have to talk about it.
Well, and that's why one of the things I loved about doing the research for Making of a Moment was it really educated me and gave me a really great foundation for why soccer is so much like women's sports.
Oh my gosh. Oh, no. Was that Messi? No. Porter is celebrating.
Oh, there you go.
Argentina equalizes in the 84th minute, and that was an unbelievable goal.
I don't like that I can't see the screen.
I
want him to hurry and replay.
Sorry to interrupt there.
So, yeah, Jude's on the ground. Jude Bellingham's on the ground. What is that celebration?
I don't know. I think you stop talking, maybe? Yeah. Or just because I think the majority of the fans are British, but maybe he's in the Argentinian section. Mm-hmm. Watch this strike. Off a corner, Messi plays it short. Oh, no, he's onside. Mm-hmm. Wait, actually, he might be off. Let's see what they do. Messi with the return ball might be offside. Plays it at the top. Look at this. Oh.
I'm sorry. That's good.
That's a world-class strike. But Messi with the return pass may be offside. Let's see what they do with VAR. Is there anything more buzz-killing than VAR, by the way, in soccer?
Yeah.
Gosh.
I'm not a fan anymore.
But you were talking about, because Making of a Moment, your motivation was Pablo, who was born in Argentina.
Well, yeah, but but I really, even talking with your dad about why, and I really realized this is the only sport we imported. Everything else is sort of American-made. I mean, everyone will argue over hockey, but so we can say we're the best or we're among the best, right? And really, it just brought me, you were talking about your history playing as a little kid. We didn't have that option. So I didn't play soccer until I was in high school. The school sanctioned a team. It was the first year they had it, my junior year. and I went out for the team. And it was so much fun. We had no clue what we were doing. Our coach was like the history teacher. I'm not sure he'd ever seen a soccer game. He read some books.
Goal stands real quick, by the way. 1-1. Yeah, keep going. Okay.
But so and then I played as an adult when I came here. My friend, her daughter actually played in the National Women's Soccer League that preceded the NWSL.
Yeah.
And she played at high school and then college at Arizona State, and then was a pro. So I sort of had. She was our coach when she was like 10 because we were women playing soccer. So I had this, like for me, it was a participatory sport, and so switching sides. But my beef is with soccer is the same beef I have with women's sports, and that is, the people who cover it do a great job. Same with women's sports, but the people who don't cover it, they don't say they don't know things.
Then they try to cover it.
They won't ask questions about what they don't know. They won't admit a learning gap. They have to know. They have to know everything.
Yeah.
And look, there are beat writers assigned to the hockey team. You mentioned the hockey team. Where's the beat writer assigned to the soccer team? Where's that? And that's always been my beef.
Yeah.
And there is this gap. You can have great talent and you can have great financial investment, which we have had in soccer for a long time. You have a media gap, and you're going to have a media gap until you convince the media that they deserve the kind of coverage that the other stick and ball sports have.
Yeah, and the Trib doesn't even have a hockey writer right now because we lost Bell.
No, they hired somebody new.
Are you sure?
And they hired they have a new sports editor.
I did see that.
Yeah. So I thought somebody invited them to some, like I get sometimes group texts about sports stuff.
Uh-huh.
There's a gathering to welcome somebody.
Yeah.
So I could be wrong.
Maybe. I mean,
I don't work there.
Maybe newspapers are just cutting staff left and right.
That's true.
Yeah.
And people are being asked to do more with less, right? But I think that, it's a lot of reporters, especially sports writers, don't want to cover what they don't know, and
right.
they're unwilling to learn sports that they haven't. I mean, I was sent to stuff. I mean, I remember reading Tennis for Dummies, ice skating figure skating for dummies, because I didn't even know the rules.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But there's a lot of reporters that will be like, yeah, I don't know that. I'm not covering it.
I do want to save, because have you followed so Dan Patrick's on our radio station. Mm-hmm. Did you see the Kathy Engelberg, Dan Patrick stuff?
I did not.
Okay. We'll talk about it during the break because I want to save that for our next segment.
But I suggest everyone listen to Emma Hayes. She also did another interview. And I think that the women, and Megan Rapinoe's doing an amazing job on her podcast. If you want to understand, like for me, what does this moment mean? I think there are some of the articles about youth sports are really compelling,
mm-hmm.
About how high the cost barrier is nowadays.
Yeah.
And with private equity buying youth sports, there's a lot of reasons for that. Some of them have been aired out in the press. Some of them haven't. Like there was shutdown in COVID that did away with most rec programs. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them never came back.
You're talking soccer, right?
I'm talking all rec programs.
All rec programs.
And that allowed club teams and private enterprise to move in, because parents are going to put their kids in sport.
Yeah.
Right? They're going to play games. They're going to do something. And private equity bought that stuff up. And it's crazy how much money. There were congressional hearings about 6 months ago
mm-hmm.
on youth sports.
Mm-hmm.
There's more money in youth sports than two of the major sports leagues in this country.
Oh, really?
Men's, yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's not all
More
that.
than the NBA.
It's not all that. I mean, it's surprising when you put it in that perspective, because every time it feels like this is such wash, rinse, repeat. Where a World Cup comes along, Fox or whoever else does all of these promotional videos on the U.S. men's national team, and we get all excited, and they get out of group. They might win a knockout round. Then they lose to a really good soccer country. Belgium's a really good soccer country.
Yeah, but you have.
But it leads to this whole dissecting of what do we have to do.
Yeah, but you don't look. I helped coach youth. My husband was a youth soccer coach.
Uh-huh.
Rec soccer coach. I have kids that played clubs soccer. The level of coaching is not what it is. Like you can go to a youth sports program in another country,
yeah.
and you're going to get legit coaching,
yeah.
right? And you come here to America, and somebody's dad or somebody's uncle is the coach, the guy with the money. It's not based always on, I think the level.
Oh, hit the post. Sorry.
And I think you have this. I think you have the same. You could look at all of our the way we develop all sports, right? And when you don't have.
That's a goal. Argentina goal. 2-1. Argentina, 92nd minute. Wow. Unbelievable. You calm down in there, Porter. That's
because we talked about the Revolutionary War.
It's a good goal too. But look, your points are spot on.
Mm-hmm.
In other countries,
It's a lot more complicated.
but clubs are actually paid if they produce pros. So like the Messi story is the biggest example of this. Yeah. Came from nothing, played for a club, and then as he grew, the club benefited. But these parents aren't paying. I had my son was a high school soccer player, and we were told early on, like, if you want him to play high school soccer, you have to funnel him to one of these clubs. And then I get the first invoice. I'm like, wait, it costs what? He's 9.
In my 20 years on the beat on high school sports, it went from you could show up and try out for a team and make it, which is the way it was when I was in high school, to if you are a player playing varsity sports and you are not on a club program, I wrote a story about you because it was a freaking miracle that you made the team.
Yeah.
Like there, and clubs would pay for kids that couldn't pay. There was always some dad or some, booster here and there. But I wondered how much talent didn't even get to that point.
Yeah.
Didn't even show up.
Yeah.
My husband, when he coached rec, bought cleats for the kids. One little girl came in, she had one pair of shoes. They were church shoes. She wore them practice. My husband's like, you got to have cleats.
Yeah.
I gotta buy you cleats. So, we bought shoes for kids. Sometimes you bought food for kids. That's what we're missing. I mean, I remember Usain Bolt saying that if the American, and this is a program that's now dead from USAID, if they had not given them lunches, like nutritional lunch, he said, I don't know that my body would have developed the way it needed to be able to run the way I did. I mean, you worry, like all the little pieces, health, nutrition, do they get medical care? Do they have the opportunity to even develop skills in the way we do? Or are they growing up in a refugee camp? There were some interviews with some of these soccer players. It reminded me of Pablo, actually, because Pablo and I had this conversation once about playing because your life depends on it, because it's the thing that's going to get you out of the ghetto, and playing because you just enjoy it. It's just so much fun, right? Really, both really compelling reasons to play. Love the game and because it's my lifeline. It's one of the reasons I love combat sports. John Randall, he's playing football because it saved his life.
Mm-hmm.
He's nowhere without football. That's what soccer is to a lot of people in the world.
Yep.
And so I just feel like there's so many little pieces that people want one answer, this thing, and is it going to work or whatever. It's not just when will we consume it the way the world does. We probably never will.
Yeah.
But most certainly, if we don't fix the youth sports problem in this country, we're going to have more problems than not being able to compete at a World Cup.
Is it even possible to fix it? Because
Absolutely.
Well, so what's the answer? Because when the money gets in the way, it feels like the way our country is set up, it just becomes the way that it is.
Yeah, which is why you can't have unfettered capitalism when it comes to something like developing your children.
Do we have enough people that don't want unfettered capitalism even with something like that?
I think I do. I do think that most people, and here's my problem. Congress is not the answer. God bless Chris Murphy for having the hearings and for running bills that get journalists looking at the issue, because by and large, people don't care about youth sports. But I was stunned at how many of these issues that we were talking about in high school sports or college sports began in youth sports.
Mm-hmm.
And so the things, the roots of your tree are that's how healthy it's going to be.
Yeah.
And if you're not thinking about that and cultivating that and making it so that there is low to no barrier for any kid, I wonder. I mean, when I was at the Olympics in Rio, hanging out in the favelas, my cousin's like the world's most amazing human being, and she does all this service work. And I went with her, and her mom was delivering food baskets to families that don't have food during the summer because there's no school. And I just was walking around and talking with people and just having a great time meeting people. And I just thought, how much is lost to poverty? The first woman to win a gold medal in the 2016 games from Brazil came from the favela where we were at. And I'm telling you, most people don't make it out.
Yeah.
Let alone win a gold medal for their country. And she's in a sport. She's never going to, there's no pro league, track and field. Good luck with that when you live in Brazil.
Yeah.
Right? But like, what a moment for her country.
Yeah.
And so, But like most people that are in that situation, we don't even know what we've lost
Right.
as human beings.
Yeah.
But I think that about this country too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how many kids just don't do you do what's free or you do what's easy. And if soccer costs, if you have to be in club soccer, I remember the first kid who skipped the high school season to play club soccer and talked to her after the season, and her high school team had won the state tournament. And she was really heartbroken that she hadn't stayed and participated. But she and her parents bought into this idea that this is the track she needed to be on. And I'm telling you, as a woman, I was furious because that was probably the most amazing moment she was going to have.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The colleges the options you have for college are really good or really mediocre.
Mm-hmm.
And then good luck, because every time we thought a league was catching on, it folded.
Yeah.
You know? And so the same issues that have plagued women's sports are now the front and center with the soccer conversation.
Yeah.
The way it's covered everything.
Last thing for this segment, because I do want to talk about this situation, and we'll kind of review the Kathy Engelbert stuff, because I just heard it when I was listening to our station.
This is when she didn't show up. I just remembered I did see that.
Yeah.
They had arranged for her to come on the
Correct.
and just so everyone knows, because I'm sure some of your listeners don't know.
Yeah,
she's the commissioner for the W.
Correct, and we'll get to that next. But
I did watch that.
The other interesting thing about the club soccer ecosystem, starting at a very young age, and I coached junior jazz basketball for 4 years with my son and his little buddies, and it was really fun. But I had a rule with the parents. I sat them all down before the season, and I said, I don't want to hear anything from you. And if you start talking to refs, your kid's not going to play. So don't talk to me. Don't talk to refs. Don't talk to the team. Like, just watch and enjoy. So I was always an uninvolved observer as far as my kid playing. I just didn't say anything to the coaches. But what you find when you are writing $5,000-$6,000 checks for your kid to play in a system, the entitlement starts seeping in, and then the parents get upset if the kid's not playing or if he's playing a different position. Mm-hmm. And so as I've often said, the thing that ruins youth sports are the parents. It's not the 8, 9, 10-year-olds that are just out there wanting to play, but it does start to ruin the experience for them when they look over on the sideline and their dad is nose to nose with a coach or an official. And it's like, what? And I do think it's because they feel entitled to express themselves because of the money they've spent on the experience for the kid.
100%. Pay to play is the worst possible system if you want to have fun. If you want to teach your kids anything good and kind and uplifting, it's the worst. And again, what also happens is I've seen kids who couldn't afford to pay to play.
Mm-hmm.
And so other parents would pool the money, or like I said, they get a booster. And one of the things they did was they asked these kids to pick up trash around the fields.
Okay.
So those kids have to go pick up trash, and the other kids whose parents have money don't do it.
Yeah.
And so you created this two-tier system, right? And I've been a kid who didn't have money. So it's really, it's a very unfortunate system. And I don't know if anybody took a real good hard look at it, that they would want it. I mean, most people who got through it, we added it up. There was a volleyball parent who was paying about $7,000 a year for volleyball. I'm sure it's more than that now. And I said, you could pay for college if you just save that money. And she said, I'm not doing this for the scholarship. This is what my kid loves to do. She loves to travel. This is the thing that's fun for her. But there's a contract that Visit Salt Lake is looking at that's millions of dollars for one volleyball tournament. It's crazy. This is youth sports. It's unbelievable the amount of money that's there. And again, I would say there are sports, like you can look at volleyball. There's really good coaching at the youth level. There's probably really good coaching at the basketball youth level.
Mm-hmm.
Go to a soccer field on a Saturday morning.
Yeah.
Go to some club coaches,
Yeah.
right? Go to some club games. And again, there's so much that's sinister that you don't like, that if we don't really start raising the bar, and again, COVID shut down all these rec programs, and a lot of them didn't come back. And I was just talking to someone in Sandy City, because Sandy City did bring they never got rid of theirs, but a lot of communities saw these private companies moving in and thought, oh, we'll just let them take care of it. They don't take care of everybody. Rec soccer costs $25 to $50, which again, there were kids that couldn't afford that.
Yeah.
And that's why I think the system that allows you to come in and try things out and figure out what you're good at and give you a place. If a kid has belonging, that's better for your community. Like there's so many reasons that are not about winning games and looking amazing on the world stage.
Yeah.
But if you want to look amazing and be on the world stage, think about lifting and providing a better safety net and a better, system of mental health. Like our high school sports programs, like what we offer in high schools, is unrivaled in the world. It's at risk right now. I'm telling you, it's being squeezed by the money that's in youth sports and college sports, and it is going to annihilate high school sports.
Yeah. Well, it's final. Argentina wins 2-1. Holy smokes, what a comeback. England had a 1-0 lead in the 78th minute. Argentina 2 goals after, and Argentina and Spain will do battle Sunday at 1 o'clock Mountain Time in New Jersey. We're supposed to say New York. The stadium's literally New Jersey. All right, one more segment in with Amy Donaldson, our friend from KSL on ESPN 700. Stunning scenes in Atlanta as the Brits took a 1-0 lead in the 52nd minute, carried that lead into the 78th minute. And Argentina, once again, I said when it went to the 78th minute, it was 1-0. I said, remember, Argentina has scored 9 goals this tournament after the 78th minute. They score 2 more, making it 11, which is a World Cup record. And Argentina and Lionel Messi advanced to the World Cup final against Spain on Sunday with a 2-1 win. And, Amy, we were talking during the break, like, look at this. I mean, I don't know that there's an equivalent, including the Olympics, of a tournament like this that means something like that to so many people. I don't know that we have an equivalent.
No, I don't think we do. I'm trying to think, but no, I don't. There's nothing that belongs to the world.
Yeah.
Like I said, we export most of our sports. So I think basketball has become a pretty global game, but it's not like this. I mean, you had refugee camps. You had just the scene at the Nordic the princess the castle, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, it just like where people are. Look, when I was in Rio, Argentina Brazil played for the gold medal, and they had not won. They had never won it, right? So they are a soccer country. Like I was saying, any of their random little leagues probably could have beat the MLS champion at that time.
For sure.
So, but it was crazy. Which club are you from? People had their club shirts on, but I had covered. It was when Chris Camrani was there, and it was so cool to cover games at Macarena Stadium, right? But for the gold medal game, I decided to go and watch it with everybody who didn't have tickets. And it was this pier that they had huge, giant, almost drive-in screens.
Was this in Rio?
In Rio.
It was on
the water. And it was just, you were in what I can only describe as a sea of people that didn't have a beginning or an end. You were just, there was no way to get out of it, no way to know how to get to a thing unless you knew where it was. You walked and people were with you everywhere you went. And again, everyone had their club shirts on, but they were all rooting for Brazil. And it was just this, I can't even tell you, I've said this about the Olympics before, and I think about a lot of big sporting events. World Cup would be in this category, but the national championship games, Ed and I have been to a couple for college football. They have their own energy. It's like they are a living, breathing thing. And that's the only way I can describe it. And it just sweeps you up, and you don't even know what you're feeling because you don't have the knowledge or the history, and you don't understand all the culture. But you understand this moment is it's gonna stick with these people.
Yeah.
There's gonna be a mark. This will be a moment in time for them.
Yeah.
It's not that things are not the same before or after.
Yeah. And the prices that you're asked to pay for tickets, and I would imagine the journey of some of these Argentinians to make it over to our country, and some of whom probably had to traverse some pretty complicated spaces to see this game, to see that player, to see Lionel Messi win and go to a World Cup final. I mean, these are core memories that these people have just made for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
I mean, I think of the trips we've taken, right? I mean, I'll never forget when we watched Ohio State win the national championship game against Miami, and they were not favored. We still talk about how many pro players ended up in the league from that game.
Yeah.
Right? I'll never forget seeing Maurice Claret get stripped of the ball and then run the guy down and grab the football back and run back the other direction.
Yeah.
And I couldn't stop screaming. I'm not even a fan.
Yeah.
But I'm a fan of amazing things.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of great stories. And it was such a great story. And I remember Ed, I would be like, "Are you excited?" And he was like, but he was. It's too hard when you're an actual fan.
Sure. Yeah.
You don't want to get your heart broken.
Yeah.
So you're just, and I imagine being there, like you say, saving the money, traveling all this way, and then wanting so bad and getting to the 78th minute and just thinking is this? Did I do all this? Spend all this money to be in this moment where we lose?
Yeah.
Okay,
let's move over this. And we were talking earlier, and I'm glad you actually brought this context in. The opening segment today was a little bit of a rant on people that drop in on soccer once every 4 years and decide to give their hot takes, and they sound like absolute idiots.
And we're talking about media people. I'm not talking about fans.
Yes.
Fans are welcome to drop in.
So to give you an example, when Deion Sanders took over the Colorado job, and beat like Nebraska and Colorado State. Stephen A. Smith did a rant like they're going to win the national championship. He's going to go coach the Cowboys. It's like, stay in your lane, dude. They might win 5 games this year. They're not even the 5th best team in the conference. Calm down. So the World Cup rolls around, and the biggest voices in media decide they're now soccer experts and dissect why we can't beat a team like Belgium without acknowledging that Belgium's awesome. And the same thing tends to happen with these WNBA stories. Now, as you and I have talked about, I've been around the WNBA since 1996 because the New York Liberty and my father was on the board, and we watched all those games, and Teaspoon was our girl. But I don't profess to be an expert on any of this stuff.
Yeah.
So I will cede to you some of the stories that are going on. Now, I have in front of me, NBC just released the ratings for the Fever's Aces game on July 12th. So there are a lot of good players in that game, but of course, one of the players is Caitlin Clark. Mm-hmm. And it's the highest watched WNBA game this year by far, 2.64 million viewers. Mm-hmm. So here's how I'll unpack it. It's pretty undeniable that Caitlin has had a massive effect on this league. Mm-hmm. And it has led to more exposure. It has led to a new CBA where players are making more. But it's also undeniable that the players that have been in this league for a long time, it feels like they don't like the way it's being talked about, that it's Caitlin, and they're not getting credit. So let's start there.
They don't like the way it's talked about because they have the same beef you do, which is stay in your lane. What are you talking about? You don't know the history of this. You don't know that. So, but there are players like, so I read and watch a lot on this subject because I am not currently covering the WNBA, and so taking the temperature, I defer to the people who are there every single day. But what I watch and what I see is that there are levels to this. There's nuance. So Caitlin brought in a lot of people to the WNBA, a lot of fans, a lot of eyes for people who had not been interested in the league. Mm-hmm. And she brought in media attention, which the league had not enjoyed, like mainstream. And when I say mainstream, it's mostly white male media attention. The big guns, that's who they're. Like 35% of the female journalists employed in media they work for one organization, ESPN, mm-hmm. right?
Yeah.
So that's how bad it is. It's between 85, 95% male, depending on what sport and what you're talking about. And so she brought people in who had never been interested in watching women's basketball, which was great, except and then they think they knew everything. So you have two problems. You have fans who jump on the bandwagon, like you do with the World Cup. All these fans. I mean, I think there were like 10,000 people mm-hmm. at the stadium watching the game, and it was super cool. But there was a lot of stuff being said and talked about that I was like, well, they're new to the sport. Mm-hmm. Great. I mean, I think kind of it's cool that Argentina's in the final because I think that's good for the MLS. I think the more players, I don't care if they're at the end of their career, that come here and play MLS soccer and get people into a stadium, it's the Caitlin Clark effect. So Lionel Messi is not the future of your league, but Caitlin Clark could be the future of your league, mm-hmm. right? You want to bring these fans in. You want to grow your base. There are women who resent her, but also when she brought those eyes with her that hadn't seen women's basketball, they were not used to how crappy the coverage is, the refereeing is, the conditions that the women have to deal with. They were like, wait, what? And they were outraged. And that's why people started, we have to fix this. We have to change this because people from outside expected better for them. And so you have like layers of that. And you do have some women who are just a-holes, right? Who don't want her to be they don't want her to be the one who's attention. But she's also, like, I think for the most part she's handled it pretty well. But there's definitely
Caitlin, right?
Yeah, Caitlin Clark. There's definitely some moments. She's definitely got a flopping thing. There was some video from the game that you're talking about where I was like, come on, you know what I mean? And the thing about the WNBA that people don't know, because who haven't watched it, is it's hardcore. When you come in, they initiate you by beating the crap out of you, right? It's Detroit ball. It's really hardcore basketball. And most people who don't watch women's sports are not used to seeing women compete like that.
Yeah.
Right? And to them it is this is where the sexism and the racism sort of seep into the coverage, and that's your problem.
Yeah.
So you have these layers of problems, and then you have a leadership void, a vacuum, because Kathy is terrible.
Kathy Engelbert, the WNBA commissioner.
She is constantly on her heels. She doesn't recognize. I mean, from dumb things like this poster that they made for the 30th anniversary of the WNBA, where they didn't have the rights to some of the players, some of the best players, Diana Taurasi. I think someone said Cheryl Swoop.
And Caitlin as well, right?
Caitlin Clark. So they're not on the poster. Like, it was the dumbest thing ever. But, there's enough podcasts now that you can hear from some of the top dogs. Like, the women who built this league are talking about this. I highly recommend it. It's the reason I watch the Belgian coach hit all the press things they did. So, and when he would say things about why teams can score at the end of the game, and why a team can hold you scoreless for 80 minutes, and then it doesn't. It's that tightness that comes from wanting to win so bad, right? Like, just really fascinating things you learn about soccer and about any sport when you listen to the people who are managing it, learning it, teaching it. They're in the trenches.
Yeah.
I heard you were having Pablo on. I jumped on. I was like carrying my phone around while I'm trying to do my job.
Yeah.
To listen, because I wanna know how he's seeing it. Right? That's why you listen to that stuff. So I recommend people listen to these women who've been in this league and who are just crying and pleading for better leadership.
Yeah, it's some really good stuff there. I noticed something because we're again the big voices in media, and we were discussing it earlier. It's Coward, it's Stephen A. Smith, it's Dan Patrick. It's a lot of the older media guys that have been around for a while. And I noticed something that for me had to shift, at least in my approach, that once upon a time, without podcasts, without multiple media outlets or social media outlets, if you wanted to hear sports talk radio, you had 2 or 3 stations in your market, so you went and turned on those sports talk radio shows. And on a national scale, the Jim Romes or the SVPs and Rosillos, like the big national radio, that was also an option for you. What that led to is somebody who was in that seat, you felt like you had to be an expert on everything. You felt like no matter what the topic was, there wasn't a guest you could get that only covers that, or a guest that you could get. So, like, the example I use a lot is college football recruiting. There did not used to be a 247. There didn't used to be college football recruiting, like, on the ground every day, people that are covering that every day. So on signing day, the day before, you had to spend 5-6 hours doing everything you can to learn about all of these high school kids that nobody knows about, yet you have to. So that's one example of now with this ecosystem, my approach is just go get the expert and ask the question and let them unpack it. But I think a lot of these dinosaurs have not adjusted to that and still believe they have to be an expert in everything. And I think a lot of that leads to the pretty clunky coverage.
Honestly, I think they know it all. I don't think they feel like they need to know it all. I think they know it all.
No curiosity.
No curiosity and no deference. Like, I watched one WNBA game, so now I know what I know, right? I've made suggestions to talk. I also think talk radio, I'm not always a fan of it, because I think some people think the purpose of it is to be provocative.
Sure.
And not to give context or depth or behind the scenes, which I think I found those kinds of hosts much more interesting. Give me more information. Give me some, pull back the curtain a little bit. I don't want to hear, there were hosts. I remember listening to talk radio when I was doing it so that I was informed. My youngest kid said to me, "Oh my God, who is this guy and why does he hate Riley Nelson?" And my kid didn't know who Riley Nelson was. I did, because I covered him in high school.
Yeah.
But yeah.
By the way, the sweetest guy in the world, Riley is.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, it's like, the whole family's super nice, right?
Yeah.
But and there was, but that's what people do. They like the rants, the being provocative, saying stuff that and I've heard people say to me, "Well, I'm just trying to play a role or whatever." Well, I listen to media or read stories to think differently, to see a different perspective, to be educated. And if all you're going to do is try to make me be mad, get me angry about something, then I'm not interested. Which is why I didn't like Jim Rome when Jim Rome started to get into. I mean, I think he always had that streak, But he did like a lot of really good interviews, and the more it became about shouting someone down, I think, political reporting's it's taken its
for sure.
cue from sports talk radio.
For sure,
Now
yeah.
we have both things.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the other thing is, I think Dan Patrick tried to do the right thing by setting up the interview, and having that conversation. And the thing that annoyed me about his, we were.
If you want to be a
be
serious
fair.
league, yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? I don't have a problem with that part.
Okay.
I think they're a serious league. She's not a serious leader.
Uh-huh.
And so I think I had no problem with that. My problem is that he didn't have anything to add to say, here's what I wanted to know from her.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
He just kept belly aching, and nobody feels sorry for media because you didn't get an interview.
Right.
I don't care.
Yes.
I mean, I'm ticked at what she did, and the excuse she gave is ridiculous. My PR people didn't want me to.
You're the commissioner.
Do you know how many times people have told me they didn't want me to do things?
Sure. Yeah.
Like, that's such a dumb thing. If you feel like you need to do the right thing, you do it.
Yeah.
Right? That's silly. And there's been so many moments. I can think of 5 or 6 big time moments for the WNBA when a player had to lead out or a coach had to lead out, and thank God they have some good ones, because their commissioner was nowhere to be found. And I'm sorry, the one thing everyone agrees on is that their officiating is crap,
Mm-hmm.
and it needs to get better.
Yeah.
You want to be a serious league? Have serious officials.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The professionalism there is non-existent.
Yeah.
So people have put up with it for years because they didn't have any choice.
Yeah.
Now that people who are not used to it are watching, we can bring some pressure on them.
Yeah.
But again, you need leadership. You need somebody saying, hey, these are issues. These are what we're doing about them. And here's the things that are at play. Talk about these media people not knowing what they're doing. What is she? She acts like she doesn't know what the WNBA does.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't know what the problems are.
Yeah.
Are
they? And then we'll find out what you have going on and set you loose. Are they towing a line of maybe blowing it with Caitlin kind of being the tide? And look, I understand the dynamic of other players being like, hey, we've been here for a while. But we can look at golf was nowhere before Tiger. I mean, any golfer that currently is making millions of dollars, it's one of the reasons Tiger's behavior has been accepted in the PGA Tour, because everybody in the golf ecosystem knows without Tiger, that sport never would have taken off. And we could go sport by sport. Jordan in the 90s. Yeah. It does feel like Caitlin might be an answer to what this league has been looking for a long time. Are they handling it the right way? Is the last thing I'll ask you.
The short answer is no. But secondly, I don't think she's Tiger. I think there are better players in the WNBA, and there is a play of one of her teammates doing what I'd never seen in the WNBA, which is blocking a ball against the backboard. I mean, listen, I remember when Lisa Leslie did the first dunk in a game, and like everyone lost their minds, right? So there's these barriers are being broken by these women. New things are happening. Records are being set all the time. But she's bringing in people who didn't know where the league came from. So they're seeing those things happen as if they're normal. These are amazing, right? Yeah. They love this, right? So they're blowing it for sure. But she's not Tiger. Tiger was singular.
But the attention that she's brought on is so analogous,
valuable.
Right? Yeah.
And but she's in the league. She's not going anywhere, right?
Yeah.
And the Fever are good. So and they have a great coach, and the league is just getting better. The talent is just getting deeper. And the stories are amazing. So I don't see them like that. They can't blow that. What they're blowing is making people think that the league is not managed well, and a woman is at the helm of this league.
Oh, okay.
And I want a woman at the helm of the league to be doing the same kind of job these women are doing on the court. Yeah. Right? I want her leadership to match their talent.
That makes sense.
And that's what I worry about, is they're going to be like, you need to get a dude in there because like she sucks.
Right.
Right? That's what I hear and what I fear.
Okay. Before I say Louis, tell our listeners where they can go find your work.
Yeah, you can go it's on any great podcast app. You could listen to The Letter or Making of a Moment. And Coach's Book Club this week is our buddy Kent Cravens.
Nice. I mean, it's not Joe Cravens. Joe Cravens, yeah.
Kent Cravens was a cop I used to.
Shout out Kent Cravens, but it's Joe this week.
He did the gang ride-alongs I did in my very early reporter days. But yeah, Joe Cravens, and so much fun. Such a great storyteller. And I loved talking to him about the book he picked was The Last Innocents.
Okay.
Which is about the Dodgers in the 60s.
Okay.
And how they really changed baseball.
Huh.
with Sandy Koufax.
Good stuff.
I will, yeah.
Good to see you. We'll get you back soon, okay?
Thank you so much.
Our friend Amy Donnells from KSL, brought to you by our friends at Advanced Window Products Summer Special. It's hot outside. If your house is hot, even though you have the air conditioning on, or if it's cold in the winter, even though you have the heater on, you need new windows. Do it now and save $2,500 when you purchase 10 windows or more. Discounts can be prorated for fewer than 10 windows. Give them a call at 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100. Tony Beltran stops by next on ESPN 700. I am still in shock with what we just saw in Atlanta, where England took a 1-0 lead into the 78th minute, and somehow, some way, Argentina found 2 goals to advance to the World Cup final on Sunday against Spain. Lionel Messi and Argentina march on. Burnley FC is in town. RSL is about to be back to MLS play. So a great time to bring in our guest who played for the U.S. men's national team, played for RSL, and now is one of the main guys in the front office, assistant general manager, Tony Beltran, on a lovely Wednesday. What's up, man? How are you?
Hey, Spence. My emotions I'm still trying to calm down after that semifinal match. I'm sure we're all trying to calm down, but I feel like I just played a game. That's how my heart's beating right now.
This tournament is so cool, and I always forget, and then it comes back, and I'm like, this is unbelievable scenes in Buenos Aires. They're showing all the Argentinian fans across the globe, and then the ones that saved up the money, made the trip, went to Atlanta to see their country play in a semifinal and come back from the death and win to go to the final. I just don't know that there's an equivalent, Tony. I feel like this tournament stands alone.
Yeah, look, I think you're absolutely right to romanticize it. And it's interesting, Spence, kind of the polarity from before the tournament started, now that the tournament is entering its final stage. But there was the rhetoric around it there was some concern, right? Because of the inflated ticket prices. People were predicting that stadiums were going to be empty, and that this was okay. This was leading with capitalism and the expanded format, and what's that really going to look like? But it's been very refreshing to just enjoy the football, right? And to see that celebrated in such a way, and across continents, right? Every stadium's been full. There's been drama. So much drama within all the games. There were very few lopsided results, and then to have things march toward Messi and Argentina facing off against Spain in the final. It's been a phenomenal tournament. It's been emotional. It's been dramatic. It's been so much fun to watch. And I think, look, just from my chair, right? It's been a huge success and something, like you said, that reminds us all why this is the world's beautiful game.
I don't even know what else to say about Lionel Messi, who, Tony, as you know, a lot of people across the soccer ecosystem thought, okay, he's going to play in MLS. Well, I guess he's done on a global stage, and all he's done since then is win a World Cup, score 8 goals in this World Cup, had 2 assists on the 2 Argentinian goals, and is now going to play for the potential of winning back-to-back World Cups. I mean, what sort of context can you add to the conversation surrounding who most people believe is the greatest soccer player of all time, MLS's own Lionel Messi?
Yeah, I think about it in a couple of different ways, and honestly, no matter which way I kind of contemplate it, it's honestly emotional for me, Spence. And I'm sure that isn't unique to myself. I'm sure that's shared across many fans of the sport, and everyone observing him doing what he's doing. And look, he is obviously elite in MLS, right? And we see that every weekend. The data shows that as well. But to observe it on the global stage at the World Cup, and for him to take a look at Argentina, right? That is a team, a phenomenal roster. But for him to be a step above, a significant step above, and leading that team, for them to be relying on him in the way that they do, right? And for him to be separate and apart and above of so many stars on the global stage at the World Cup, it really punctuates in dramatic fashion his legacy as the greatest to ever do it. And you know far more about wide-ranging sports than I do, Spence. I mean, but across other sports, across other competitions, has anyone ever done it like this at his age? I mean, at 35 at the last World Cup, it was a big exclamation point on his legacy, and people were saying, "Wow, Messi's playing like this on the global stage at 35." But for him to be 39 years old and still to be carrying the team in this way, it's absolutely remarkable. And my goodness, it's so fun to watch. And I've got to comment on one more thing. The way that his teammates work for him, you can see that you can just feel it just permeates through the screen that the number one bullet point on all of their job descriptions, right, on their responsibilities in the match is to work as hard as possible for that man, right? And there's such power in that, and it's honestly, again, it's emotional to watch. It really has been.
Yeah, I mean, he puts himself in the category of the greatest of all time in any sport for sure. I mean, Tiger won a Masters in 2019 when he was in his late 30s. Brady won a Super Bowl at 43. LeBron is still doing it at a really high level in his late 30s. But those are the names, Tony. I mean, it's not just now. In my opinion, LeBron's 41 now, and this might be his last year. But it's not just talking about Leo Messi as the greatest soccer player of all time. It's talking about Leo Messi as one of the greatest athletes in the history of the world.
Of course, and that's credits his mentality, right? That at his age, with all his accolades and trophies and accomplishments, that it still means that much to him. That he still has such internal drive to win, right? To compete and to win. So again, credit to him and credit to all the Argentinian fans out there. It's been really fun to watch, and I'm sure the final will be equally as thrilling and exciting for all.
You have a lean. I mean, like most everybody else, just because Mbappe is just so incredible, I figured France was going to win it. Spain has been unbelievably impressive. They've allowed 1 goal all tournament, and I think I saw they've allowed like 7 shots on target. And I mean, at this point, it feels like Argentina might have that thing that you need in tournament soccer, that magic. 11 goals after the 75th minute in a World Cup is a record now. So coming up on Sunday, we're supposed to say New York. The stadium is very much in New Jersey, but do you have a lean as far as how this is going to go?
Look, New York, New Jersey. That's hilarious. I think my head says Spain for all the reasons that you mentioned, but my heart says Argentina. Right? I mean, it's hard to root against Messi and Argentina at this point, but look, if anyone can stop them, you would think it would be Spain, right? And you saw that again on display against France. Everyone was talking about, the narrative of the 3 attackers they have, all the danger in that roster that they present for oppositions. But, Spain just suffocated them with their organization, with their pressure, with their IQ, and with their ability to dictate in possession. And so it'll be interesting, right? In New York, New Jersey, it's an open stadium, so the elements are going to be felt, right? And that probably plays in Argentina's favor a little bit more, even though they're on one less day of rest. But look, I think this World Cup has kind of subversed expectations. And again, even though my head says Spain probably has the upper hand here, it's hard to pick or root against Argentina, considering what they've done.
Okay, before we get over to the RSL side of things, I'll be out there tonight. Very excited to see you and everybody for what should be a really fun friendly against Burnley FC. Got to ask you about the U.S. men's national team, and I'm just starting to feel, Tony. And look, you wore the jersey. You have been around this game your entire life in a way that I haven't. But I have been now watching, working in, or covering soccer for 22 years. This is my 5th World Cup cycle. So it does feel a little. I didn't watch in 2002. I wish I did, because that's when we actually were knocking on the door. But historically speaking, it does feel like, okay, the World Cup comes around, all the big media outlets do a bunch of features on these players and coaches. We get really excited about what could be. And then we get out of the group. We won the group this year. We get to the knockout round. We did win a knockout round game this year, but it was an expanded field. And then we run into a country. And look, it's always interesting for me to hear people that don't have a perspective on what soccer is. Like, Belgium is awesome. Like, people that don't have a viewpoint on what soccer is worldwide. I was hoping we would win. I wasn't surprised that we didn't. There was the Flo Balogun red card situation that Flo himself said he felt like ended up being a distraction. But your overall 30,000-foot viewpoint on what the U.S. men's national team either did or did not do.
Yeah, I think a really hard question to answer, just, kind of to encapsulate my thoughts and emotions. There are a lot of positives for the U.S. men's national team this World Cup, right? And that was on in very stark display in the early games. I believe that the first time the U.S. has ever won 3 games in World Cup, expanded format aside, you still have to win those games, right? And so that is positive movement in the right direction, right? And then you kind of hone in on the Belgium-U.S. game. I was having a conversation with Jordan Allen earlier today, who you know well, Spence, and Jordan had some really interesting insight. We were talking about Argentina and then traversed over to the U.S. and he made the comparison that, look, the talent gap between the U.S. and Belgium is about the same as it is between Egypt and Argentina, right? And Egypt took Argentina to the brink, right? And really made them work for it. And so, look, I don't know if it came down to in that moment, right, just an execution, right, a lack of execution. But I think the U.S., for everything Pochettino has done and led them towards and everything he's trying to instill to them, I'm not here to tear down any of those players, but I feel confident saying that they were very much left wanting on the day, right? And so look, I think it's unfortunate to go out in that manner, right? Because I think the U.S. and that team could have represented themselves better again on the day against an opponent, even one as technically sound as Belgium, but still encouraging and positive for the U.S. and hopefully, most importantly, and for posterity, all of this, the U.S. and everything happening across the 3 countries in this World Cup is inspiring to the next generation, right? Who will take us further.
I got to follow up with a couple things. The red card, the Flo Balogun red card, I did feel like it was a tough decision in the moment. I was surprised to hear others say they thought it was a red. Bruce Arena said he thought it was a red. I did not. Most people didn't. And then the process that led to that being rescinded and him allowing to play, my thoughts are layered. Number one, probably the right decision. Number two, that kind of feels gross. I don't know. That's kind of where I was at with the whole thing. Tell me what you think.
Yeah, no, my opinion is pretty much aligned with you there, Spence. And hearing him say that ultimately it might have been a distraction. Look, that's with hindsight, right? After the game has been played, but look, I think if that call would have went the other way, right? I don't think anyone would have. There wouldn't have been uproar about that. So I myself, right, my own opinion, I thought it was a little bit harsh, that red card, right? And I thought it was. Yeah, the attention that the reversal of that red card, the rescission drew, right, and it was maybe a little bit unbecoming, in my opinion. And so look, but the game had to be played, right, and again, the result is what it is, and now all we can do is speculate, right?
Yep. One more thing here, and then we'll go over to the RSL stuff. As a former player, look. Christian Pulisic is thought to be maybe the best player we've developed in the country. And he's gone on to do great things at Chelsea, now in Italy. So it's clear that he's a very, very talented player. And it's also clear that in some of these international tournaments, he has not met the moment. It's also clear that he was hurt, and injuries suck. But as a former player, I wonder what you make of other former players, in my opinion, sometimes going a little bit heavy on piling on the kid. I don't exactly know where to land with it, but what do you think?
Yeah, my agenda is certainly not to pile on him or anyone, right? I've never played in a game, of that importance. And I don't live in Christian's shoes. And, I don't know what he was feeling or what he was dealing with. I've read about it, and it's really unfortunate. Injuries, the timing's always unfortunate, but that seems, really cruel, right? And so look, I think I'd rather just not be Pollyannish, but a little bit more focus on all the positives, right? That the rest of that roster has done for the U.S. men's national team, and again, to inspire the next generation of stars, the next generation who, and this is the way of the world, right? This is the way that it should be. Hopefully will surpass Christian and all of his teammates, right? And carry the U.S. men's national team forward. And that, so look, if I saw him, I would shake his hand and I would thank him, right? Because I don't think it's becoming to do anything other than that.
And then one more thing here, it constantly leads to this whole, now we have to dissect what's wrong with the youth soccer system in our country and why we can't develop the players that other countries develop. What's fair to say about that, Tony?
Yeah, there's been a lot of scrutiny. This is not new, right? The scrutiny of the pay-to-play system and how that's, different from the rest of the world, and how that's so limiting, and the demographics that participate in soccer in this country versus other countries, right? And of course, that's adjacent to the narrative that our best athletes, play other sports and all of those things, right? But look, I think what this tournament has done is it's not the rival of soccer in this countries or across these three countries. It's just really revealed the soccer culture, right? And all the momentum that's building here. And so my hope is whether the pay to play model stays or it evolves, and obviously selfishly and economics aside, it would be great if the sport were more accessible for everyone. Of course, that's never a bad thing. I would never argue against that, right? But I hope either way that everyone, all the main stakeholders and decision makers and people who are moving this forward, right, are making decisions in the best interest, again, of posterity, right, and in honor of the next generation, and giving them opportunities to surpass where we are, right, and in line with where we want to go. So look, maybe that's a little bit of a cop out and meandering answer, right? But again, I'm trying to be positive.
And that's what we love about you, Tony. It's what makes you you, which is great. Let's move over to some RSL stuff. 1 week away. Dude, I was looking at the schedule. Oh, my gosh. This is a sprint to the end once you guys are back. Right. Oh, my gosh. I don't think I was fully aware of exactly the load that you're up against starting in a week from today. But just in a few hours from today, you do welcome in championship side Burnley. They were recently relegated, which we're all very upset about for obvious reasons. But tell us about the process that led to this friendly and what you're kind of hoping the atmosphere looks like tonight, what you guys are trying to accomplish as a side.
Yeah, no, of course, there's deep history in the relationships between Burnley and Real Salt Lake, right? And of course that stems with your father and Mr. Pace and Jason as well, and all those connections. And so it's been many months in collaborating and getting to today, right, and getting to the occasion of the game, and it's very exciting to have these. It's always exciting, this isn't specific to just the first team space, right? I really relish this across the academy space as well, when you get diversity of opponents and you get to measure yourself and be challenged in a unique way against international peers, right? And so it's going to be an opportunity for both sides, right, in the build up to their respective seasons, or for us, the second half of our seasons. And it'll be, a celebration of the sport, everything that's going on, and a very competitive, again, opponent diverse experience for each respective team. So we're very thankful for them for making the journey. We're very excited about the game, very encouraged by the ticket sales and the attendance for tonight. Everyone, I think, in the market is eager and a little bit starved of RSL and soccer, professional soccer being played here. So that'll be a great celebration. And like you said, this will be our last preparatory step towards what will be a grueling second half of the year. Very grueling. We start out with 3 games away. We go straight into the Leagues Cup, and then it's pretty much, 3 game weeks as we sprint to the end of the season. So it's a time where the first team depth will very much be tested, right? And I think it's something we've been working very hard on, is just, okay, how do we carry forward the momentum that we built in the first half of the year on the heels of the disruption that the World Cup break has presented us with.
Tell us about this new player from Atlanta. I know nothing about him. I will not try to pronounce his name because I will botch it, but a lot of people pretty excited about this new acquisition. What should we know?
Yeah, about Saba. Happy to talk about Saba. We're very excited to have him here. And, it'll be fun to watch him tonight to play as he further integrates into the group and kind of gets his bearings. He's as I just outlined, depth is going to be huge. Right. And that doesn't label Saba as a depth player, but competition is really important as well. And you have more competition within a roster when you have legitimate depth in the roster. And so to have another attacking player who can play across multiple positions, right, in a system where we often play 2 players inside of those attacking midfielder positions, is going to be really helpful and instrumental as we carry forward into the sprint that the second half of this year presents. And so Saba, primarily for Atlanta, has played out wide, but the things that he does well as an attacking player, we think actually in our system are going to be heightened and enhanced. The ability to run in behind, to work off the ball, and that's before I get to his technical ability and being able to do it, proven goal scorer in MLS and also as an international as well. So very excited to have Saba here and yeah, look, again, to hone in on this, healthy competition within a roster is paramount. It very much is. And then depth is going to be necessary because it's going to take far more than 11 players to carry us forward through these multiple game weeks.
Tony, thank you, my friend. I will see you in a matter of hours. Look forward to seeing you tonight at the stadium, and thank you for your time. Be well, okay?
Always a pleasure, Spence. Go RSL. Thank you.
Tony Beltran, RSL welcomes in championship side Burnley FC tonight. Go to rsl.com if you want to watch some soccer. If you've been captivated by this World Cup, the summer of soccer continues, and it is an absolute sprint for RSL in MLS play starting 1 week from today. I want to let you know you can join us at Brighton Resort for the first day of the 2026 Women's Disc Golf Championship tomorrow, Thursday, July the 16th. Fans can watch the championship live. Just visit our event page on our website for the link. It's ESPN700sports.com. VIP or general admission tickets at ESPN700sports.com. Text now to win at 877-353-0700. We're going to send you to see Zach Bryan coming up next, but you got to listen to Brett Ciancia from Pick Six Previews. We'll ask you a question based off that interview, then send you to see Zach Bryan at Rice-Eccles Stadium. 2 hours down, 2 hours to go. Keep it right here on ESPN 700. All right, rolling along on a Wednesday edition of The Drive. I often say that media days are the official start of the college football season. Well, I should say the unofficial start of the college football season. And we were in Dallas last week for Big 12 media days. But another indicator that college football is right around the corner is when Brett Ciancia releases his Pick Six previews, which he has done. And he's good enough to join us today. What's up, man? How are you?
Hey, thanks so much for having me. It's a busy time, but the best time of year here. It's publish week for the 2026 edition of Pick Six Previews. Really excited for the season. The most wide open coaching carousel we've ever seen. Maybe the most wide open playoff race. So, excited to break it down with you. It's been a busy week, but a lot to get into.
Before we get into some specific stuff, Brett, for our listeners who are not familiar with your process and just how involved this magazine is, tell us about it.
Yeah, thanks. It's a one-man show. I launched 15 years ago, and really what I do, I go team by team, position by position. I call it a never-ending research project. It really starts the fall prior, where I'm watching games all Saturday and then reruns on Sunday and writing throughout the week. But the process, it's very exhaustive. It's talking to head coaches, talking to coordinators, watching spring games, practice clips, practice reports, and then talking to local media as well, getting the best indicators for the teams. And then, of course, putting it into an actual magazine format. And I do all the writing, the editing, all the stats, and put it into a readable format so you can really learn, what happened last year, what to expect in the fall. So very comprehensive product there. And we have the digital and the hard copies now shipping out.
Let's start with the overall thought on the Big 12 Conference, where Utah and BYU find themselves these days. Of course, Texas Tech has won the thing over the past couple of years. They've got some issues at quarterback, but most people believe they should be the favorite. Big picture take as of now in July on the Big 12 Conference, Brett.
Yeah, big picture, there's a clear winner in my eyes, and that's Texas Tech to go repeat. And I was surprised to see the coaches at Media Day pick against them. Maybe that was some off-the-field politicking going on, but I think Texas Tech, anybody would say, is the clear favorite. They dominated the league last year. They brought some starters back, did really well again in the transfer portal. It's just a different tier of roster. I mean, they're like number 3 in the country in projected NFL draft picks, and you just don't see that across the rest of the Big 12. Looking at transfer portal, they signed 20 4-star transfers the last 2 years. 20. The average Big 12 team signed 2. So it's just an unbelievable roster they've got there. But from there, so that's one side of the story is a clear winner. But then from there, it's a huge wide open race to go face them in Dallas. I currently have BYU 2, Utah 3. But you could talk as many as 8, 9 teams to get to that Big 12 title game. It is one of my favorite conferences to watch every year. So many different styles of play and program strategies. So it's wide open to go face Texas Tech.
All right, now let's dig into the local side of things. Let's start with the Utes, who are the flagship home of Utah football. Obviously, a new head coach, as Kyle Whittingham lives in Ann Arbor now. And Morgan Scalley had to replace 6 assistant coaches and lost maybe 4 to 5 players he would have counted on next year. Known Morgan forever, very excited about the potential of what he could do. So what do you think is reasonable to expect from Utah football year 1 under Morgan Scalley?
Yeah, well, congrats to Coach Whittingham. A heck of a tenure. I mean, that's really the length of the time that I've been following college football. It was his rise from the 2008 undefeated season all the way up to the Mountain West and then all the way up to the Pac-12 titles there. So incredible tenure. But I put this in the book for Utah. With Morgan Scalley taking over, I just said simply, Utah is still Utah. You know what I mean? This isn't like an outside hire that's going to change up the whole culture. It's the same Utah brand. It's the same Utah culture. And I say culture a lot with this program. It's a buzzword, but it really fits here. Their player development, their physicality stands out on tape. Lines of scrimmage are always dominant. But so on other programs, if I saw that all 5 offensive linemen were gone, and I think it's all 4 or 3 out of 4 of the defensive linemen are gone, I would throw that team out of the top 25. But not here, because at Utah, you have such a track record of development that I'm just simply saying Utah is still Utah. And they've got a dynamic quarterback there, a lot to like, but they remain in the top 25 for me.
As far as where you think they exist in the Big 12 ecosystem, just generally speaking, Brett, what would you say to that?
Well, specifically for 2026, I think they're a serious contender along with BYU and maybe TCU or Houston to go to the Big 12 title game. And again, I normally would never project a team in a transition year like this to finish third or top 3 in the conference. But I just love what he's done there. I've had a chance to talk with him several off seasons now, Coach Scalley. just the defensive brand. You know what you're getting. And then, of course, with Dampier, I think the most elusive quarterback, not only in the Big 12, but in the country, the way he's able to evade the pass rush. He's a weapon in the run game, too, and so is Bird Ficklin alongside him there. They don't mind sharing, too. They're both going to get their reps. Wayshawn Parker will go for 1,000 yards. And I think they really upgraded the receiver room. That's one thing I want to see in this next iteration of Utah, maybe a little bit more vertical passing, maybe a little bit more dynamic receiver room. And Coach Scally thinks he's got his best Utah receiver room since he's been there. So that's for 2026 on a high level. I zoom out a little bit with the Big 12. I think they're going to remain a powerhouse within the conference. I just think that they have strong footing, a good recruiting track record compared to their peers, and I don't see them going anywhere.
The main question mark I think most have, certainly I do, is there's the potential that Utah had the best offensive line in the Big 12 and maybe one of the top 4 or 5 in the country with 2 tackles going in the first round. And Devin and Bird and Wayshawn and everyone else who was running the football was running behind an offensive line that dominated probably every game, Brett, outside of the Texas Tech game. Tell me about that unit, your understanding of what we're going to see and whether or not it's reasonable to expect even some of the production we saw from the group a year ago.
Yeah, I think you put it well there. I mean, I think it was one of the most dominant offensive lines in the country. The NFL would agree. They drafted 2 of them in the first round, unheard of. So that was very dominant. And you lose all 5. Not only do you lose all 5, you lose Jim Harding, Mr. O-Block, one of the most sought after ace offensive line coaches out there. But so I know that Utah last year, they used a lot of jumbo packages, bringing in a 6th or a 7th lineman. And I think you get your number 6 and your number 7 both back. So those are 2 experienced guys moving into full-time starting roles. And then they went out and signed a 5-star left tackle, Kelvin Obot. I think he should be starting right away, just given the changeover on the line. So, and you know what? I just trust that their backups have been developed the same way their starters were. So, flying a little blind with the offensive line, but I just like their program tradition in that position room, and I think they're going to be at least above average again. I'm not calling for best line in the conference. I think Cincinnati gets that one, and probably Texas Tech and BYU right there with them. But Utah's not going to be, they're going to be above average in the trenches.
Let me bounce back to Tech for a moment, and you alluded to some of the dynamics. And look, Will Hammond was under center in the big portion of the Texas Tech game where they pulled away from Utah in the second half here in Salt Lake. So we know that kid can play, but the Brendan Sorsby stuff is the Brendan Sorsby stuff. And you had alluded to the coaches voting not voting Texas Tech as the champion. I can promise you, Brett, being down there in Dallas, there is a weird dynamic right now in the Big 12 with Tech and everybody else. Seems like everybody hates Tech. Tech hates the conference. The conference is doing the best they can. I keep referring it to as mean girls. You can't sit with us energy. It's kind of odd. But as far as the dynamic at quarterback, do you think it affects their potential to win the thing?
No, I don't think so, actually. And when you look at it, Will Hammond, he was a top 200 recruit, so a high 4-star coming in. And you brought it up last year. That's what made me feel pretty good about my Texas Tech pick was I've already seen this guy in action, and arguably they're one of their hardest regular season opponents, Utah, last year. Remember, that game was tight through 3 quarters when Baron Morton got knocked out. I think it was a 1-score game, maybe Utah even slightly leading, like 13-10 or something. Morton comes in, he leads 4 straight touchdown drives against a solid Utah defense. So small sample size, but I think when he comes back healthy, he's going to be an asset for them, not a liability. And really, he just needs to be above average. Doesn't have to be a Heisman winner because the whole roster around him is pretty solid. It's like A+ everywhere, 5 stars everywhere. So I like what they've got. And, I assumed as much. When I saw that poll being posted from the coaches, I figured this is some kind of politicking because I think if they had $1,000 on the line, they wouldn't be, they would put their money where their mouth was and pick Texas Tech. It's just the best team, defending champs. And when you talk to these coaches, they'll say it. I mean, when they're off the record, they admit, yeah, it's a solid roster. But, yeah, I like what Tech has this year. And it's a shame that they've taken on this persona because I really like Joey McGuire. I've talked to him several years now in the offseason. He's like Mr. Texas high school football. It seems like a genuine dude. They got caught in a tough situation here. Of course, you're going to try and defend your player. It's a very, kind of a gross situation. I'm surprised that Cincinnati didn't get any heat from that, too, because it actually took place there, not at Texas Tech. I know that they were the vocal defenders of him, but felt like Cincinnati should get some of that blame, too.
Yeah, I will say this. The sentiment seemed to be most people feel bad for Joey McGuire. Most of the venom is that Cody Campbell, the Board of Regents, and the leadership that seems to look down on everyone else in the conference that don't have the money they do. Does that make sense?
Right. Absolutely. I mean, that's where we are in 2026. You have like your actual football talk, which I love doing, and then you have the other stuff, the NIL, the fundraising. So that angle, yeah, that's pretty crazy, and I believe it too. I went down to a game to Lubbock last year, the Texas Tech BYU college game day game, and man, you could just see the facilities upgrade, the big money, the oil money, as they say. It's for sure. They're not going anywhere. They're going to keep building their roster each year.
And if there is a team that seems to be at least keeping up with them financially, it does appear to be Brigham Young, who was voted by the coaches to win the conference. And we had like maybe 80 interviews over the course of 2 days at Big 12 Media Days. And I had multiple people pick BYU to win the conference. Didn't have anybody pick Utah to win the conference. Like you, I think a lot of people believe they'll be maybe in that upper tier. Witt took the Michigan job. Kalani flirted with Penn State, but stayed home and was able to receive a very nice raise for himself and his assistants and NIL assurances from BYU. So, Brett, I don't know about you, but most people believe if Tech does not win the conference, BYU will this year.
Yeah, well, a couple things stand out. Right now, BYU on one of their best 2-year runs of all time. I'm 23-4 overall. And again, they're just 3 years into their Power 4 transition. So, incredible coaching job by Coach Shiitake and company. I talked to him a few years back when he was making the upgrade from independent to Big 12. And he said, hey, I've been through this before. I was part of that Utah transition way back with Coach Whittingham and 2011 when they moved up to the Pac-12 back then. So he's been through it. He learned his lessons and really helped at BYU. The thing with BYU, so you think Texas Tech, you think transfer portal. BYU, they didn't really touch the portal as much. Their main thing was roster retention. They put all the resources to keep their guys in Provo, and very impressive job because they had 12 eligible starters to return. All 12 came back. You just don't see that if you're following the transfer portal closely. You see a lot of movement, and they kept everybody in-house. And they went out and signed the number one linebacker with Ulave coming in from Cal. So I like their quarterback. I like their running back, their physicality. It's kind of like Utah, the same blueprint. I mean, they're cut from the same cloth. So I really like what they've built there at BYU.
All right, Brett, it's time for the black magic trick for a radio host in Salt Lake City. When I ask you, BYU travels up to Salt Lake to take on the Utes on November the 7th. When you look at the way the schedules are playing out, I don't want to disrespect TCU. I don't want to respect Arizona. Utah has to go to both of those stadiums after the BYU game. But if we assume that Tech is the favorite and their schedule is very manageable, there is a feel that BYU-Utah here in Salt Lake could be the game that catapults one or the other to meet Tech for the Big 12 championship game. I know it's July, but we're in Salt Lake. BYU-Utah, November 7th. Who you got?
Yeah, well, that's got to be the most important game outside of Lubbock, right? I mean, that's kind of your play-in game to go face Texas Tech. People were all clamoring they want a 2014 playoff. You got your 2014 playoff. It's right here. It just takes place in November, and so this one's going to go a long way. You know what? I'm going to go with the home team. I think that Utah is at Salt Lake, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I think Utah. I mean, by then they're going to have several starts under their belts. The new offensive line, new defensive line, they're going to be ready to go. And, yeah, I mean, I'm going to go with Utah to win it.
Okay, you just made a lot of fans around here, and maybe a bunch are going to go buy your magazine. We'll get to that in a moment. But, look, let me ask you about – so Utah's non-con is Idaho, Arkansas, Utah State. Of course, Bronco Mendenhall has taken over Utah State. I don't want to be disrespectful of them, but it feels like both Idaho and Utah State in Salt Lake should be manageable games. But tell me what you know about Arkansas, the SEC opponent that will be here in Salt Lake on September the 12th.
Yeah, well, with Arkansas, they're going through a coaching transition too, and they fired Sam Pittman. He was a likable guy for them. It's just the wins weren't following. They've had problems with roster retention. A lot of their great recruiting was spoiled. They would lose their starters to the transfer portal year after year. So I have them projected dead last in the SEC. It's a tough transitional year. Really, the cupboard is bare over there at Arkansas. So I think you catch a real transitional team. And, hey, I know Utah is going through a head coaching change, but that's really in name only. I mean, it's still Utah to me. So I think Utah is the more proven product. It's in Salt Lake. I like that. So I think Utah is going to go 3-0 for sure in the non-conference. Then you look at the conference schedule. You start at Iowa State. I've got them dead last in the Big 12. then Kansas and Colorado. That's second worst and third worst in the conference for me. So you start out by facing the 3 bottom Big 12 teams. I think you got to be 6-0 heading into the Houston matchup near late October.
BYU's big non-con is Notre Dame and Provo. Tell us about the Irish, Brett.
Well, there you have a legit national title contender, and I know they were barely left out of the bracket last year on the most deserving card, but on power ratings, that was a national champion caliber team. I had them number 4 last year in my game grader formula. Got them number 4 again to open up here in 2026. It's basically the same roster back. Everyone's back except for that running back duo, but a very veteran team. Could be the best offensive line and arguably the best defensive line in the country. So, we love BYU's lines of scrimmage. They're going to be tested against Notre Dame, and they're going to have to go prove themselves. So I like Notre Dame there in that matchup, but that's a little like playoff caliber preview right there.
You're a Heisman voter. Is there a legitimate preseason Heisman candidate in the Big 12?
That's a great question. If you're looking at sometimes a running back can break through. If they lead the country in rushing, put up like 1,500 yards. And if you're looking for a workhorse back, look at L.J. Martin. He's back at BYU. So I would consider him a candidate. Quarterback, maybe look at Drew Mestemaker at Oklahoma State. Again, he's going to be a stat guy. He was a top 5 quarterback last year at North Texas. Eric Morris pretty much just picked up the North Texas offense from Denton, Texas, and just dropped it right into Stillwater. So if he transitions well from the AAC to the Big 12, he could be a candidate if he puts up another 4,000 yards or something crazy. But those would be the 2 that stand out. I know Noah Fafita is special, but I don't think Arizona is going to do anything too special this year as a team. And sadly, that goes a long way in most people's Heisman's ballots.
All right, before I say you lose, because I know you got to get to it, is there any way the Big 12 gets 2 teams into the CFP this year?
Yeah, and it's all about the conference title game. It's if you pull an upset on Texas Tech in the conference title game, that's an automatic bid to the winner. And then I think Texas Tech may, if they go 12-0 in the regular season, would still be strong enough 12-1 to be in the bracket as an at-large. So I think it's all about upsetting Texas Tech in the final if you want to get 2 in there. So that's the path. And now who that team's going to be, your guess is as good as mine. It's wide open. That's why we love the Big 12. But I think BYU, Utah, and TCU are my top 3 to go contend for it.
Brett, where can people go get your work, buddy?
Thanks so much. Pick6previews.com. And on there we have a couple sample pages. We have the hard copy, the digital copy, the in-season product, too. If you like the magazine, it's basically picks and projections every single week. So go check it out, pick6previews.com.
Thanks, buddy. Be well. We'll chat soon.
Thanks so much. Anytime.
All right. There he is, Brett Ciancia. Here's the question to go see Zach Bryan, hang out, have a couple of pops with Porter, listen to him sing about drinking too much whiskey, and then bring in on Casey Musgraves on stage to ask him to stop. Text line is 877-353-0700. I'll keep it simple. Who did Brett Ciancia pick to win the Utah-BYU game? Text that in to 877-353-0700. 877-353-0700. Who did Brett Ciancia from Pick 6 Previews just pick to win the Utah-BYU game? A very irresponsible question to ask somebody in July to pick a game that is in November. But, Porter, I'll tell you what, for Ute fans that have been a little bit down about the way their team is being covered, that's a smart dude that really likes Utah even year 1 under Morgan Scalley. That's good news for Utah fans.
Yeah, obviously Brett's a guy who knows what he's talking about year in and year out. His Pick 6 Previews is right there with Phil Steele, really on like preseason predictions. When you go back and look at the actual results, those guys have a good feel on the pulse of college football and what teams are real, what teams are not. And I mostly agree with him. I do think that, and he kind of alluded to this, once Utah has some starts under them, they may look a little better. But it really is going to be about what the line of scrimmage looks like for Utah early on, both on the defensive and offensive side. And if they can get that up to not even, of course, what they saw last year, but just up to par, that's going to be a dangerous football team. I want to see it on the field, right? I want to see what Morgan Scalley puts together and what Jordan Gross more specifically has in store before I'm super confident about it. But if that comes together along the front, this is a team that has just as good a chance as anybody of competing in the Big 12 with Texas Tech.
Can I share a secret with you?
Yeah.
Considering writing my own College Football Preview Magazine.
Okay.
Doobies Dimes. What do you think?
I mean, I have to be included there as a Doobie Junior.
No, that's what I'm saying. We'll put our heads together. But here's the thing. It's ball and it's film study.
Yeah, that's all you can have.
Gonna hang out.
No analytics.
No analytics. None of this talk of conference realignment or NIL. It's a couple guys in a room
watching tape,
all 22, and it's ball. That's all it is.
I'm on board.
Okay, Doobies Dimes.
Just Big 12?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
No, national. And by the way, FCS and FBS.
Wow.
Yeah. I want Montana State film on the reg, on repeat. Okay? Maybe even high school ball.
Now you're getting carried away.
I'm talking every high school team in the country, FCS, FBS, 1AA, you play ball, Doobies Dimes is covering you.
It's going to be a novel.
I'm just coming up with this in real time.
It's like a length of War and Peace.
Yeah, it's going to be, but you know me. I want to grind. I want to get in the film room. I want to grind tape. I want to eat tape. I want to throw the tape up. I want to watch it again. And yeah, none of the politics. I don't even know who Brendan Sorsby is anymore. He's gone. He's not on the field.
Yep.
So none of those we are talking big uglies up front. We're talking 4 tight ends on the field at once.
Thank you. 14 personnel.
14 personnel. Heavy lean into special teams. Special teams is where football games are won and lost. People don't talk about that enough.
You're not wrong. High impact on those plays.
High impact.
That's some analytics there, but we'll let it slide.
Yeah, just ball, man. Because you know me. I mean, how great is ball?
I want to know where you're getting the all-22 on, like, rural high school film.
We're going to work on that. We have some relationships to cultivate. But if you want to hear about who's going to use the Spider 2Y banana this year to success, Doobies Dimes is where you go.
.com.
Will you look and see if go type in doobiesdimes.com?
I'm fairly sure it's available.
Real quick before we break, type in doobiesdimes.com and tell me what comes up. It might be weed related, so we might have some work to do there. What do we got?
Yeah, it's available for
it's
you
available.
If you want to get the
buy that right now. Hit buy now. Is there a buy now button?
No, I don't know how to do that also.
Buy a website?
Yeah.
Can't be that hard.
You just register. Monster.com or whatever.
That's what it is. There's a service that allows you to buy URLs.
Not the energy drink Monster.
Shout out to them, by the way. But go to doobiesdimes.com for the all-22 comprehensive college football preview that is can't miss.
Looking forward to it.
But again, be warned, if you're looking for fluff, if you're looking for politicking conversation about NIL, transfer portal, finances, CFP, expansion, realignment.
Not here.
This is not for you. This is, if you want to know ball, this is the one-stop shop.
Featuring Yogi Roth.
Did we get a winner for Zach Bryan tickets?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
All right.
I got to text him, but we got
good.
a few.
Congratulations, Zach Bryan taking over Rice-Eccles Stadium on August the 7th. More details at ESPN700sports.com. Text now to win 877-353-0700. That's 877-353-0700. All right, we'll catch a break. Coming up on the other side, Smitty, Richard Smith. What did we learn with Summer League? Darren Peterson and the Utah Jazz. Where will LeBron James go? Some NBA basketball comes your way coming up next. Then we'll get to the 5 o'clock hour of the show, and we will say goodnight at 6 on ESPN 700. Utah Jazz do have a summer league game tonight. I don't know who is going to play. Still waiting to find out where LeBron James is going to play basketball next year. The Jazz have had a fun summer league experience, namely because their number 2 pick, Darren Peterson, has played very well. But our next guest will provide context as a man who has probably watched tens of thousands of minutes of summer league basketball. Smitty, Richard Smith, on the program on a Wednesday. Where do we find you, Smitty? What's going on, man?
Spence, we're on the road again. We're calling you from downtown Prague in the Czech Republic, as we just finished a nice river cruise, and we're spending a couple of days in Prague and tooling around before we head back to Salt Lake this weekend. So it's fun to connect with you and see what's going on in Salt Lake.
Good for you, man. You've missed record-breaking heat while you've been gone, so I would imagine you picked a good time to get out of here.
That's what I understand. I understand it's very hot in middle of July in Salt Lake City, and so we've been a little bit cooler temperatures over here in the middle of Europe, so we'll take that.
Gotta love that. Gotta love that. All right, let's start with a lesson you can teach us on what can actually be learned while watching Summer League basketball.
Well, the main thing you take away from that, Spence, is you don't over-evaluate, and you don't take anything. I should say you take everything with a grain of salt. The competition is usually not very good. It's very uneven. You've got top draft picks like you do this year with Devanza and Peterson and Boozer and Wilson and all those guys, and then you've got a lot of other guys who have either tried to make the NBA before or have not been able to, are playing overseas and trying to get a foot in the door in the NBA, or college guys who just aren't quite at the NBA level and may play professionally somewhere else outside the U.S. And so the performances can be very uneven. You can have guys who have great games, and you kind of go, whoa, that guy, we got to really hone in on this guy as maybe a free agent if he wasn't a drafted kid. Or you get your guys who you drafted who don't play well, or just something's not right, or they're not feeling the offense, or whatever it is. There's a lot of things that are moving parts in the summer league, and it's really a chance primarily for the teams, the coaches, who are going to be working with their key players in the fall to get a feel for them, to get them in a little bit of a rhythm of some sort with some practices and workouts. And then the summer league games are really nothing more than live scrimmages, for the teams involved. And you even see that when you see some of the top draft picks playing a couple of games, and then the team says, okay, we're calling it off and not playing them again because they don't want them to get hurt. So that's kind of what you end up seeing, especially at this point in time as the summer league starts to wind down the last several days.
Now, having said all of that, as I referenced, there's a game tonight. I have no idea who is going to play. But in the games that we have seen Darren Peterson play, he has looked really, really good. And Steve Wojciechowski, who's coaching the Summer League team, has put the ball in his hands. And he's been the primary ball handler, primary playmaker, and he's really shined. He's done a really, really good job. 25 points per game, about 5.5 assists per game, about 3.5 boards, shooting about 38% from three, 44% from the floor. And again, as the primary ball handler, has been kind of initiating most everything when he's in the game. So with everything you told us just now, keep that in mind about what's real and what isn't in Summer League. What's a fair thing to say about Darren Peterson, who's looked really good?
Yeah, well, the one thing I think for him is that what we've seen in these games that he's played both in Salt Lake and in Vegas is just his composure on the floor. He doesn't get sped up. That's one of the things I think that we looked at in our evaluation process coming into the draft, that he really plays at his own speed. He really sees the floor very well. And then he's a guy who just has a good feel, a natural feel for the game. and that's something you can see. People might get a little overboard about the turnovers. Some of that is on him. Some of it's on the players he's with. Some of it's, the guy's just not quite knowing the offense, and but you can just feel him when he's on the floor that he has great court vision. He really has a knack for getting into seams, seeing what's going on in front of him, and then making the right read. I just like his feel for the game. He's come into the draft saying he wants to be a point guard. I think he can do that in the way the NBA plays now, with open floor, with 5 guys out and guys running pick and rolls all the time. I think that's the thing that Coach Wojciechowski's trying to get him involved in a lot, is just getting a feel for how the pick and roll game works in the NBA, how guys space the floor, and then being able to read that and react accordingly. But I really like the feel he has for it, and the way he's played on both ends of the floor. He's really also shown a knack for getting his hands up and being active with his feet and being able to move. And that's one of the things we also saw on the film and evaluating him coming into the draft, is that he's really a kid who plays both ends of the floor. And that's really something the Jazz need going into next year.
So you referenced Coach Wojciechowski, of course, a great point guard in college, and was a head coach at Marquette, and now is kind of making his way back into the profession a little bit like Quinn did. And he's one of Will's assistant coaches and coaching the Summer League team. So as far as the way that Woj has decided to use Darren, can we learn anything about how Will is going to use Darren when the regular season starts?
Yeah, that's most of that Spence's stuff that's worked on in their practices. It's stuff that the whole coaching staff is involved in. Coach Wojciechowski's out there. He's just executing the game plan that the staff has had as a whole, especially for their main guys, whether it's him, whether it's Cody Williams, whether it's Ace Bailey. Those guys are, getting the reps that they're getting. That's all under the guidance of Will Hardy and the rest of the staff and what they want to be able to see. And then, of course, the front office, with Austin Ainge and Danny Ainge, weighing in on that. They want to be able to see those guys do certain things on the floor to give them a feel for what they're going to have to work on during the summer, heading into fall camp in September. And that gives them a pretty good feel for the things that they want those guys to be able to work on and improve on during the course of the rest of the summer when Summer League is over.
Moving over, we saw Ace for a couple of games, and then they decided to shut him down. With a year of experience under his belt and the way he finished the season, I always feel like the really bad news in Summer League is if your high draft picks and veteran players don't show the ability to dominate that competition. And maybe we didn't see enough of Ace to understand exactly where he's at, but just give me a thought on what Jazz fans should take away from the just few games that we saw from Ace Bailey.
Yeah, well, he's trying to feel his way now with and realize too the guys they're up there playing with. That's one of the things that makes Summer League so difficult to really evaluate anything on a steady basis, and that is that they're playing with other guys who probably aren't either going to get playing time or aren't even going to be on the team next year. So their performances get a little uneven. I think what the Jazz brass wanted to be able to see was just how he reacts with the Peterson kid, how they play off each other a little bit on the floor. They're working on that stuff in practice. We would always have these debates about whether guys in their second year, like an Ace Bailey, should be playing major minutes in the Summer League because they really need more reps to be able to get a feel for what their game is going to look like going into their sophomore campaign as a pro. There's always that pull and tug about, well, we don't want him to get hurt. We don't want him to get discouraged if he doesn't have a good game or something. But, we would always try and err on the side of playing guys minutes, getting guys out on the floor, letting them, get their legs under them, get a feel for what you're trying to execute. You talk about in practice, to be able to do it in live scrimmages like this. So I'm not really a big fan of the guys showing up for a couple games and then just sitting them, the rest of the time, because these are young guys. They need to play. They need to work through their mistakes. They need to figure out how to decrease the number of mistakes and the deficits that they have in their game by being out there playing against other guys. So, I'm sure the Jazz have some kind of a different look on it. How they're working with these guys and what they want to see out of them. But our groups were always proponents of getting guys out there, letting them play minutes, letting them run, and really getting a feel for the things that you want them to be able to work on once the summer league's over.
So Cody Williams, it's going to be a kind of a make or break year for him. And with the backdrop of summer league is always difficult to really understand what we're seeing. I think I'll just speak for myself. He had some games down the stretch last year when they were being very, how shall we say, creative with lineups, where he showed some things here or there. But when it comes to the conversation around him and his summer league experience, the team propaganda is he's big, he's strong, he's bigger as he's growing into his body. And that's fine because that's true. But beyond his conditioning, I think I was hoping to see a little bit more just simply as a basketball player growing into himself as a pro. And I don't know where I'm at with it, Smitty. What are we hoping to see from Cody Williams this year?
Yeah, well, I think you're right on, Spence, and I'd even push that a little bit more, the chips in the middle of the table. He's got to be able to show significant progress in the third year. The athleticism that he has, his ranginess, his length, and all that. He just hasn't brought it onto the court and hasn't been consistent enough with either the effort or the ability to be consistent in his production. And I'm not sure he's an NBA guy myself. The Jazz, they're going to ride that out this year because he's going into his third year now. He's a top 10 pick. So, okay, they're trying to protect how they see it. And that's what every team does. But at some point, like the old line goes, you fish or cut bait. And it's going to be a big year for him. I don't know what his minutes are going to look like if the Jazz are going to play this coming season the way that everybody says they're going to play in terms of being serious about competing, about having lineups in there that are meaningful, about playing games night in, night out that they're trying to win. I don't know where he fits into that equation to help you try and win games. I'm very skeptical about that. I've never been a big fan of his. I still haven't seen it. I've seen a little flash here and there, in some games where he's done a few things, but it's not consistent enough for me for a guy who you need to have come and be a contributing member of a consistent effort to try and win. So he's going to get some chances early on, I think, in some preseason games, maybe early in the season when they're trying to figure out lineups and stuff. But it wouldn't surprise me if you slowly saw him shrinking toward the end of the bench and seeing where his career goes from there. I'm not really sold that he's an NBA guy, I guess is what I'm trying to say at the end of the day.
The other thing I'm always really skeptical about are stat stuffers on bad teams, looters in a riot, as people like to say. And ultimately, I'm not going to sit here and deny that Keontae was better a year ago than he was the year prior to, and he had to be. Like it's a make or break year for Cody. I think last year was a make or break year for Keontae, and we saw some really bright individual offensive moments. 23.6 points, 4 boards, 6 assists. So if we are to believe the Jazz are putting their best foot forward, what should we hope to see from Keontae George this year?
Well, he has shown to me that I was not a believer in him the first 2 years. I thought that he was a little selfish. I also thought they were trying to play him out of position a lot. For me, trying to make him a point guard when to me he's not a point guard. He's a scoring, undersized two guard. In a best case scenario, if you're an organization and a team that's trying to win and trying to be serious about competing, then I think you could have a Keontae George on your team as your first man off the bench, as your second unit scoring guy, because, whether it's a Jamal Crawford or whether it's a Lou Williams or in the old days, Vinnie Johnson, one of those kind of guys that can come off the bench and get you a bunch of points early in the second quarter. That's the kind of role that to me, he's best fitted for on a team that's trying to win night in and night out. They may try and play him early in the season, with Peterson and have them flip-flop 1 and 2, one guy handle the ball, for a few possessions and the other guy do it and initiate and see what's going on there. But he also, as we all know, is been a very poor defensive player. Okay, the Jazz haven't been serious about competing the last few years. They didn't want to win games, so their defense was not just suspect, but was very, very bad. Was almost record-setting bad the last couple of years. He was a big part of that because he gave no resistance up front when the ball got over at half court in the first level of defense. So he's going to have to show, I can score, I can get buckets, I can create off the dribble, I can do those things, but what do I do on the other end that's going to help our team win on a regular basis? I think the Peterson kid does that on both ends. Now, between him and Jaren Jackson, I think you're going to have two very good and active defenders. So does that rub off on the rest of the group, including George? Does he realize, I got to start playing like those guys if I'm going to be on the floor and get minutes on a team that's trying to win and trying to compete? That's the thing that we got to be able to see from him, because now all of this, I would say summer league type games that he was playing the last couple of years where they didn't care if they won or not and just let him go and do his thing. Those days are over now. They got to come out and they got to be serious about playing both ends, and he's going to have to start showing his coaches and the rest of the organization that he's serious to play on the defensive end, as well as the contributions he can make offensively. That's the stuff that we're going to have to see from him early on next year.
So I feel like a lot of this would have worked in a way that could be pretty exciting if they had better rim protection down low. And Jaren Jackson Jr., for his size and position, can do that. But Yusuf Nurkic cannot. Jackson Hayes cannot. Mo Bamba cannot. Walker Kessler could. He's now a Laker. The Jazz get 4 unprotected first-round picks, essentially 2 picks and 2 swaps. But, Smitty, the Jazz offered him reportedly 5 years, $140, and he signed a 4-year, $130 million contract with the Lakers. And it feels like that's not enough of a gap for them not just to match. I get the value play. They're being applauded for the value play. But at least in a vacuum, it does make them different this year, does it not?
Yes, and I didn't like that move that the Jazz made. I thought it was short-sighted. I don't know what the behind-the-scenes discussions were. I don't know if, when the Jazz made their offer, that was a very reasonable offer because it was like $28 million a year, but it was for 5 years. So I don't know if there's something with the Kessler camp where he was telling them, look, I don't want to make a 5-year commitment because I want to get out of here a la Gordon Hayward as soon as I can. So I'm willing to do 3 years, or not now with the Lakers on the sign and trade. It's a 4-year deal, but it's a player option for the 4th year. So it's really a 3-year deal from the perspective of the team, because at the end of that 3rd year, then Walker Kessler calls his shot. Am I going to opt out like Gordon Hayward did? And if I do that, then I can go do whatever I want to do in terms of salary and team I want to play for. It seems to me like maybe there was something, and I don't know this, between the Jazz and his camp where they wanted him. That was obvious because they gave him a good offer for 5 years. So they were willing to make that commitment to him. So they wanted him in that regard. Then came this restricted free agent stuff. The Lakers get involved. There's a sign and trade. Now it's a 3+1. So all of a sudden it's from a 5-year offer to really, again, in my interpretation, a 3-year deal. So maybe that was what he was going after to try and get more control on the back end of his the second half of his career. I don't know that, but it seems like the Jazz wanted him. They made the offer, and then next thing you know, they're discussing a sign and trade and doing something else. It hurts them as a team that wants to compete because they had a guy who was who was a rim protector, an offensive rebounder, a guy who you could run screens off of, lob threat at the rim, all that stuff. He's proven that he can do that at the NBA level. It seems like there was some disconnect to me between what he wanted in terms of length of a contract and what the Jazz wanted to get a commitment from him in terms of offering that 5-year deal. And when his camp balked at that, then the sign and trade thing came up, and the Jazz said, we're just going to go a different way. I don't think that was the right move for them. I think that in a worst case scenario, you sign them to whatever the deal is going to be for a 3+1, if that's what it is, and you work on the next 3 years of having a good team, a competitive team. You have him in the fold. Maybe you guys start winning. Maybe the tone changes around the team. Maybe everybody is on an uptick now, and now when his 3-year deal comes up and he's got the player option, maybe he says, boy, we've been winning the last couple of years. This is a lot of fun. I want to stick around with these guys and do this long term. That's what I would hope, that you would get out of it if you were on the Jazz side. It didn't work that way. They went a different direction. This thing about getting assets and draft picks that are 5 years out and 7 years out, that's not helping anybody right now to try and be a serious team. So there's a disconnect somewhere there in the contract stuff. Not sure what it was. I don't know if we'll ever find out what that really was. But that was disappointing to me because I think that was a key figure, a key thing that Spence, we talked about a couple months ago. We said we're going to find out in early July if the Jazz are serious about competing and winning when it comes to the Walker Kessler deal. And now we see that this thing happened. So that was, to me, was a disappointing move and decision by them.
Smitty, thanks for the time, especially while you're traveling. We'll set you loose so you can get back to it, and we'll get you in the studio soon, okay?
Thanks, Spence. Good to be with you.
All right, the great Richard Smith. Want to let you know that you can help 200 children at the Road Home start school in style. Stop by the Advocates in Ogden, American Fork or Murray. Pick an apple from the tree. You can supply clothing and backpacks for a child at the Road Home, or shop and donate online at appletreeforkids.com. Every child deserves an advocate. Stop by today. See ESPN700sports.com or appletreeforkids.com for more details. More of The Drive on a Wednesday coming up next on ESPN 700. All right, final segment of the show, Wednesday afternoon style. You're halfway through that work week. You are one day closer to the weekend. Going to take off from the studio to head down to Sandy to watch a little football, watch a little soccer. RSL Burnley FC. And while I'm there, I'm going to spend some time with J.J. Watt. So we're going to play that interview, hopefully coming up tomorrow, if we can kind of get it turned around. J.J. Watt is on the board of Burnley FC. He married a local Utah girl who played for the U.S. women's national team. So some fun soccer tonight, RSL.com. Come join us 1 week from today. LAFC and RSL will resume the MLS season. I want to let you know coming up tomorrow, join us up at the Brighton Resort. Come escape the heat. It's the first day of the 2026 Women's Disc Golf Championship, but you already knew that. You can watch the championship live. Just visit our event page at ESPN700sports.com for the link. So we'll be out and about tomorrow. Back in studio on Friday for our final show of the week. Still am in awe of what I saw earlier today as England, God save the Queen, had a 1-0 lead into the 78th minute, and Argentina comes back to shock the Brits 2-1, leading us to an Argentina-Spain final coming up on Sunday at 1 o'clock Mountain Time in New Jersey. We're supposed to say New York. The stadium is literally in New Jersey. I know you're pumped, but the Argentina-Spain final, I could name like 10 finals I'd rather see than that.
That's okay. That's okay. We'll get an entertaining match. It'll be fun. And, we got to watch England blow another late lead in Georgia again.
Oh, look at what you did.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Argentina doesn't necessarily have a sparkling reputation as a country with human rights. You understand that, right?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
Look, I respect greatness on a world stage. Part of me feels like maybe your prediction market choices.
No, not for the World Cup.
Porter.
I told you, I don't know the game enough to waste money. That would be me just throwing darts at a wall. Not even a dartboard, but just a wall.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I was hoping to see a little France action in the final. They imploded. Spain looks really good. Spain looks like the most complete team. They're heavy favorites against Argentina coming up on Sunday for the World Cup final.
They probably take a 2-0 lead, and then we see Messi do something crazy. It seems like that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, Argentina kind of just has this thing, and the weird thing is Messi has not said that this is his last World Cup.
He hasn't.
And he's 39 years old, but with what he's been able to do, and by the way, he's now to the point where if he says he's playing in 4 years, he's playing in 4 years.
I've also never heard him say anything, so
well, this leads to an interesting dynamic where, like, Messi legitimately does not speak English because he's never needed to. He's that good. A lot of guys, like, it's weird what we do where we ask everybody around the world, you have to learn our language.
It's marketable.
No matter where you're from. But Messi's always been good enough where he's like, no, I don't have to.
And I'm sure he speaks some English. Like, if you run into him in Miami, like, I'm sure you could converse with him. But there is a part of him that I'm sure probably just doesn't care or wants to go into that space.
Well, the word is he does not speak enough to, like, do interviews. Like, I'm sure he can communicate. He's lived in America now for long enough where I'm sure he's got a little bit of it. But we've seen this thing, like, in the NBA, like, Yao always spoke English. Mm-hmm. It was the worst kept secret in NBA circles, yet the Chinese did not want him to do interviews, nor did he want to do interviews. So the Rockets were always like, oh, sorry, Yao's not available. He doesn't speak English. And then he's overheard, like, having full-on English conversations with people. Then once he retired, it's almost, he was working for the Chinese Basketball Federation, but doing copious amounts of interviews in English. There's always this thing when it's English as a second language. It kind of provides a smokescreen for the PR gatekeepers to be like, nope, sorry, he's not talking today.
Yeah, I wonder how much of it is that with Messi. And he's good enough that, okay, you can do that.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's been a really, really fun tournament. I thought Tony Beltran had some interesting things to. I mean, Tony's the nicest guy in the world. He's always going to wax positive about everything, quite frankly. But now that this is, my 5th World Cup cycle, either working in soccer, covering soccer, I can completely understand the frustration from people around the ecosystem of folks that drop by once every 4 years to drop their hot takes about what we should be doing as a country and then what needs to get fixed. The youth soccer, and I thought Amy was dynamic on this earlier. The youth soccer system, if you are a parent that has experienced it, you know exactly what I'm talking about, because it is pretty wild that a lot of the kids that could be the answer to our problems as far as talent goes, they can't afford to play in our youth soccer ecosystem. And I want to be careful here. I don't want to be disrespectful to anyone, but you know, my son played for good clubs. We were told, like, if you want him to play in high school, he's got to start playing club soccer at like 8, 9, and 10 years old. You know, we're paying a lot of money for him to play the game. And I hate the way this is going to sound before it comes out of my mouth. But he had some teammates that could barely even walk, and you can't cut them because the parents paid $5,000, $6,000 for them to play. And a lot of the better athletes, I have one kid in mind. I will not say his name into this microphone because I know his dad listens to the show. I have one kid in mind who was always the best athlete in just kind of in that area, and he was never playing with the club side of things. Because if you can't afford it, you can't play. And then there are parents that can afford just to pay for their kids to play, and you can't cut them. And I actually think a cut is an important thing. I think there's a golf conversation here we don't have to get into. I think having the ability to cut kids that aren't as good, regardless of your financial status, is an important thing. And giving opportunities to kids who are really, really good that just don't have the scratch is something we need to figure out. I don't know what the answer is. Amy, I thought, outlined some really good things, but it's like everything else, man. When the money gets so big and the money gets involved, it just distracts from what the thing should actually be.
Yeah, it's kind of the AAU-ification of all sports, right? Where guys run a program, got a bunch of money, and they kind of decide who plays, who travels. It's tough because I talked about this yesterday. I'm a big opponent of like the over corporatization of sports, right? Where everything is just about the dollars and the return and not merits or the sport. And obviously you can't necessarily lean away from that when we're talking pro sports. We're talking, money at the gate. We're talking filling seats. But when we're talking about children, we're talking about youth sports, I think there's got to be some sort of line in the sand where you're like, no, we're gonna keep this about the game. We're gonna keep this about the kids and not about trying to monetize it. I think we may have jumped the shark. I think we may have gone past the point of return there. But yeah, I'm with you, and it's not just soccer by any means.
Yeah, no doubt about that. So if you're a parent, you probably understand the conversation, and you probably have experience with it if your son or daughter is an athlete of any kind. All right, Porter, time to say goodnight. What's coming up on a Thursday edition of The Drive?
Thursday edition of the program up at Brighton, of course, live on site. Craig Bolerjack is going to stop by. Howard Beck is going to stop by. Our friends from Sports Court stop by on a Thursday show. And then maybe J.J. Watt, NFL Hall of Famer, maybe Dave Checketts as well. We'll have kind of a fluid but loaded show.
Going to see what I can do out of the stadium tonight at America First Field, and we'll bring some of those conversations to you tomorrow. Special thank you today to Amy Donaldson, Tony Beltran, Brett Cianci, and Richard Smith. If you missed any of it, go to the website, ESPN700sports.com. Download the app, check out the podcast page. For Spence, I'm Spence, that's Porter. For Porter, I'm Spence saying goodnight. Have a great Wednesday evening. We'll talk to you on a Thursday drive live at Brighton right here on ESPN 700.